I have you now.
They want to mess with my droid. They're going to pay for it.
This is the way.
You may fire when ready.
Blow that piece of junk out of the sky!
The way you're fighting, you wouldn't have lasted long.
Hello there.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
Celebration 2025 is in the books, and what a celebration it was. We had a ton of news come out of this. I mean, it was non-stop news. We are here to break all of it down for you guys because there is so much to talk about. There's so much swimming around in people's heads that you've got to be able to get it straight. And so that's what you came to this podcast to do, is so we can get it straight. We have all kinds of news. We have tons of TV shows to talk about. I mean, who knew that in 2023 we were going to be talking about 9 different Star Wars TV shows and getting news updates on 9 different Star Wars TV shows. Who knew that in 2023 we were going to be getting 3 new film announcements? We got books to talk about, comics, toys. There's a little bit of a glaring hole on something that we're going to, what we wanted to talk about that we're not going to get to talk about. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But we have all of our thoughts coming together on everything that this means for the future of Star Wars. We are going to break down all 4 days for you. We're going to deliver the news to you. We're going to go straight from the films all the way on down to the toys. And we're just going to drop bit by bit through all of them, give you our takes and our thoughts. And when I say I'm not just talking about myself. I'm also talking about my co-host, Colin Archer.
Hey, Carter. Man, what a celebration that was. I'm sorry we didn't get to go physically, but we were there in spirit, right? My blue ghost was there the whole time.
Exactly. You're right.
Yeah, so gosh, there's a lot to this. And it's not just Star Wars. We got Indiana Jones. It's kind of like a Lucasfilm thing. But, man, how many things do we have to talk about just in movies alone, you know?
Oh, movies. Yeah, we've got 4 things, including Indiana Jones, this is Star Wars podcast, but we're spending time on that because we have to.
Right.
Because what a movie franchise.
This is a Star Wars Station podcast about the Star Wars celebration, and that happened at the celebration. We love Indiana Jones.
Exactly.
So stay tuned.
We're going to get right into it. But like you said, we have a ton to talk about here. And this is going to be a long episode, so I think we just have to hop right into the meat of this. And we're going to talk about the movie announcements. So on Friday, they had the Lucasfilm Showcase panel. They come out on stage. They're talking about Indiana Jones. They're talking about the new Star Wars movies. 3 new movies that we're getting in Star Wars. And so they released a brand new timeline. We posted a picture of it in our Discord. It goes with new eras. We got a new Dawn of the Jedi era. We finally have the Old Republic enshrined here. We have the new Jedi Order era taking place after the sequels. We've got a new timeline for Star Wars that they're going to be using in all future material. And so that already kind of showed you, oh man, we're getting some new stuff on stage. And so we're going to talk about those 3 films that we're getting right out of the gate. The first one that we're going to talk about is the one that is likeliest to come out first. And we have a 2025 and a 2027 release date on the calendar. We know that the 2029 release date is pretty positively going to happen. It has been rumored really heavily. So for the 25 date, we have a new Jedi Order series about Rey Skywalker. Colin, what were your first thoughts when you heard this?
Oh, honestly, I was really pumped. Rey was actually a really good character. People can nitpick over the details, but that's really all it is. And then this has the chance to be so rich. And it's like Favreau said, the First Order was just a couple of years. This takes place 15 years after the events that we saw. So there's going to be a lot of growing of the characters. And you know, I want a crew back that is going to we're going to see some Jedi that aren't just kids, right? They're going to be some sort of, hopefully, a Jedi Master and a Padawan situation going down to solve a problem. And so, you know, that's what I want. I think that's what we're going to see.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I mean, we've got, like you said, 15 years after the events of the Rise of Skywalker, so we can assume the galaxy's been at relative peace for 15 years because Rey has been able to build up this Jedi Order. We can assume that she's going to have apprentices and Padawans at this time. We don't know the size or how many. Relatively small, probably, for the cast. This is the same movie that we've talked a lot about on recent podcasts and on recent HoloNet news updates. Written by Stephen Knight, originally going to be written by Damon Lindelof, but he exited the project. Directed by Charmin Obaid-Chinoy. It's going to be a Jedi training movie, and with it taking place in the timeline that it is, there's a lot of possibilities there. I mean, Chancellor Poe Dameron is a possibility. We know Rey is going to be a Jedi taking over. We know that Grogu is, we don't know for sure, but he's probably alive and well during this time, and he's 90-something. The same age that Yoda became a Jedi Master and started instructing other Jedi. And so there's a lot of directions that they can go with this.
Yeah, especially when you tie it up in with other projects we're fixing to talk about. The possibilities are just, let's do an episode just on this alone at some point.
Right.
Because there's so much stuff that we want. There's so much stuff that Lucasfilm is going to do. We have, this is coming out several years after the most recent film, which is the most successful factor in knowing that one of these movies is going to be good or not. We all have, that's why we're here for, is to talk about these things, right? So
right.
They're putting things in a pot, and they're putting all the right ingredients in, I think, right? And we're going to make a tasty soup when it's all said and done.
I agree. I think that's a great analogy. And, we're 10 years after The Force Awakens is when this will be coming out. That is, kids who were watching the sequel trilogy in theaters as kids. You see the pictures from Celebration. There's a bunch of young adults dressed up as Rey. Like my cousin, I just spent Easter with my cousin. He is a child of the sequel trilogy. He's 17 years old. And so he was 10 when The Force Awakens came out. And he is a sequel fan. He likes the original trilogy. He likes the prequels. But he's a fan of the sequels. He wants to see The Mandalorian tie into it. And he thinks that Rey is a Skywalker. He wants to see her story continue. His favorite character in all of Star Wars is Kylo Ren. And so these kids who grew up with the sequel trilogy are prime age for this movie to come out in 2025. It's, we talk about the sequel renaissance, the prequels had a renaissance, and that the sequel renaissance will be coming. Well, the Clone Wars started in 2008. 10 years after The Phantom Menace, and it did not take long for the Clone Wars to endear the prequels to people, and I think that 10 years is probably enough time to start endearing the sequels and start kind of filling in more gaps to wider audiences about the sequels. I see a lot of positives coming out of this movie being made.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And, man, what an opportunity.
And finally, the last thing I'll say on this one is that Kathleen Kennedy said, based on the books, in a quote, Rey is going to be rebuilding the Jedi Order like she promised Luke, and on Luke's ideals and what she thought of Luke. And this is paraphrasing. This is not the direct quote. I'm kind of rambling about it. But between Rey's idea of Luke and based on the books. And some people have been taking that as a double entendre. I think the most obvious, based on the books, answer right there is talking about the sacred Jedi texts that Rey takes in The Rise of Skywalker. And that's obviously clear, which is probably a connection to the Dawn of the Jedi, because I bet we'll see the beginnings of those texts in the next movie that we're going to talk about, titled Dawn of the Jedi. But people are also saying that this could be a connection to the novels of Star Wars and a nod at the expanded universe, because there's a whole series of books, The New Jedi Order. This is called Rey's New Jedi Order. And so to connect it to those stories could also be a possibility. And the main antagonist of those stories is the Yuuzhan Vong.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something?
Exactly. People have no idea if that's the case. And I don't know, it's a little bit of a stretch, but they have a lot of open ground to cover here. It will be the newest thing in the Star Wars timeline, so it can go anywhere they want. And I really hope... never mind. This will be the last thing that I say on this. I really hope that we can bring John Boyega back.
Oh, yeah.
He said he doesn't want to come back. He says that he's out. He says he didn't like the way he was treated, not just by fans. That played a part in it, but he really didn't like how his character was handled at Lucasfilm and how Finn felt inconsistent throughout the movies. That's usually a criticism that I hear from sequel fans, from sequel haters. Everybody kind of recognizes that Finn was mishandled in those movies.
Right.
And so it would be really nice to see Finn, not that John Boyega needs the redemption, but Finn to get the redemption here, and for Finn to be a Jedi at Rey's Academy.
Right. Wouldn't that, playing some role in that? Yeah, let's get that done. That sounds amazing.
Yes, yeah. I would really like to see that.
I really like his character throughout all the sequels. I don't think anybody dislikes the character. It's just like, what happened? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. There's just so much potential in The Force Awakens. I mean, Stormtrooper, turned member of the Resistance, wielding a lightsaber, and the Rise of Skywalker, he's obviously Force sensitive. I mean, there's a lot going on with that character that they just never brought anywhere. They never got to culmination. We know that we filmed scenes of John Boyega, like, in a more heroic way, storming that Star Destroyer and using a lightsaber, and it's just... It's sad to think of the wasted potential there, but it's nice to think that potential could be made up in this movie.
Right.
And I said Chancellor Poe Dameron as an off. We have no idea what his character is going to be. I think that would be a really interesting direction, and I think that the sequels lacked the political element that we wanted, that we got in the prequels, that was really cool to see played in there. I think Poe would be a natural fit for that role. It would be exciting because he's, general, and he's kind of he could be a reluctant politician, which is the politician you want. But it would be really neat to see Poe thrust into some kind of role like that.
Especially in contrast to what the New Republic was.
Yeah, and we've seen already through episodes of The Mandalorian that they're kind of failing at their mission and failing at their goal. And so it'd be nice to see a character like Poe Dameron come in there and really right the ship and really lead a galactic government in a good direction for a little while.
Right.
So, the next film we have to talk about, we just alluded to a little bit. It's the Dawn of the Jedi era movie. Now, Colin, when I heard of these movies, I went through stages of the ones that I was most excited about. The first one the one I was most excited about initially was the one that we're going to talk about last. And I don't even want to talk about it yet because I'm so excited to talk about it. I don't want to spoil it. That was the first one I was most excited about. Then I kind of thought, I really know what to expect out of this movie. I think this movie has the potential to be the best, but it's probably the safest because of who's directing it, and we know that it's going to be really good because of who's involved. And so then I went to the Rey movie, and I was like, this is so exciting. It's a new era. We've never explored this in Star Wars. This is going to be super cool. And then I got to thinking there's a little bit of behind-the-scenes turmoil with this movie. We don't have a lot of information. I don't want it to be a rush job to 2025, but that looks like where it might be going. And so I don't want to get my hopes up because I want to be cautious. And so I settled on this one as my favorite because when you hear the director of this movie, Dawn of the Jedi movie, directed by James Mangold, he is so passionate about talking about this. And we've only heard a couple little interview snippets, but he is talking about a biblical epic inspired by Ben-Hur and the Ten Commandments. I mean, a Star Wars movie on that scale would be amazing to see.
Yeah, and really, I think what this is going to be, what you just said, is an understatement. For those who don't know, James Mangold, he directed Logan, about Wolverine and the X-Men. It's like set later in their life where Professor X dies or is dying. And then
and it's one of the highest rated superhero movies of all time.
Right. Old Man Logan is like a colloquial term, people call it. And then Ford versus Ferrari. It was about the fight between the Ferrari supercars and the Ford GT40 supercars that Ford made to drive in the Le Mans race over in Italy or France or wherever. I should know better than that. But these are real high grade, high quality, high grossing movies that lots of people loved. I mean, like for a car guy, which I am, it's something that these guys watch religiously. I don't care for Fords, but these movies don't come along very much with as high quality as they are. So this project is going to be just the same.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think you're right. Ford versus Ferrari won Oscars. It was nominated for Best Picture. I mean, he has accolades that other directors who have touched Star Wars most often don't have. And then his work on Logan is really what endears me to this because A, I love Logan, and B, the premise of this movie is about the beginnings of the Force and the beginnings of the Jedi Order 25,000 years before the Phantom Menace. And so going that far back, you don't have to worry about any of the trappings of the saga. You don't have to care about what's going to come next because it's so far in the past. And what we are likely going to see is a single person, the first Jedi. And this guy handles these deep, single character introspective stories really well because we saw what he did with Logan. And so I think seeing the Prime Jedi beginning on Octo, seeing the very first Jedi is what's going to really, really be the key to his success, is focusing on that individual character and making it. I mean, you look at the Ten Commandments and it follows the character of Moses. You look at Ben-Hur and it follows Charlton Heston's character. And you just watch these films and they're like character studies with one main character. Usually Star Wars is about the I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's not Charlton Heston and Ben-Hur. I meant Charlton Heston and the Ten Commandments. But you follow these individuals through these films, and I think that he has a huge likelihood to follow the Prime Jedi on Octo and really deliver in this story.
Yeah, and like what we don't. This is all we know. We don't know what this is going to be about. Who's going to be the antagonist? And so,
right. This
opens up so much opportunity for speculation. Like, is this going to be like the obvious antagonist is going to be like a light side and dark side. We know that, right? So is this going to be like a Cain and Abel type situation where you've got a good guy and a bad guy and they part their separate ways and thus begets the light side and the dark side, or the light side and the Sith, or something like that? Of course, back then also, we can assume the Sith were a race. And I know that's probably EU.
Right. That's from the Legend stuff, but there's no reason they wouldn't bring that back.
And it was good. Right.
So, no, it was.
So this has, we're going to see an artist create a tapestry. I hope this leans to their own trilogy of movies or more,
Yeah.
And what are we going to get? I mean, because they have to discover the Force. Is it going to be like, is there going to be some giant hairy guy show up and it's like, you're a Force user, Harry? That's a terrible. I hope it's not like that. It shouldn't be, but
sure it will. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying though. I get it.
But
I think so. Go ahead.
The potential is so great here.
It is. It's huge, and I think for some healthy speculation, and we're so far out from this movie. This movie is likely going to land in 2027. I mean, that's 4 years from now, and it will either premiere in May, which is 4 years, or December, which is 4.5 years from now. And so the speculation that we're doing right now is just all imagination. But that's what Star Wars fans love to do. So we're still going to spend just a second speculating on it. And during this time period from the Legends universe, we have a few clues. Because there was a comic book called The Dawn of the Jedi that came out, and it was during this time period, and it came out just a few years before the Disney acquisition of Star Wars. And so it could have been fresh on their minds. We don't know for sure. But in that, Jedi didn't have lightsabers. They didn't even have like the power pack lightsabers you often see old Jedi use, where it's like they have an external battery attached to their lightsaber. They used swords imbued with the Force, like katanas. And so that's something we could see. But in this time period, in this time period, way back in the Legends continuity, the Rakatan Star Empire was what ruled the galaxy. They enslaved humans, they enslaved Duros, they enslaved basically every alien race just to their cause, and there was this massive revolt that took them down. We didn't have any mention of them in canon until Andor, when Andor receives the crystal from Luthen, and Luthen tells him that it was in commemoration of the defeat of the Rakatan Star Empire.
Wow.
And so this little tie-in, that little line in Andor could have been setting up the possibility of us going back there and the Rakatan Star Empire getting defeated by this Prime Jedi. This Prime Jedi leading a revolt against the Rakatan Star Empire. And that aligns with the Ten Commandments movie, with, the Jews moving out of Egypt and Moses leading the Jews out of Egypt and coming against Pharaoh. It could be the exact same thing here with the Prime Jedi leading the species of the galaxy in rebellion against the Rakatan Star Empire.
And
so that's just my wild speculation here, but I think that would be very exciting.
Prime Jedi makes it sound like a superhero, like Superman or Goku or something like that.
Right. And so I'm using the term Prime Jedi because on Octo during The Last Jedi, we see in the basin of a fountain a mosaic of the first Jedi. And it's like a yin-yang symbol. He's half light, half dark. And he's holding a lightsaber and he's meditating. And that's the same symbol that they used in the timeline for this era.
Excellent.
And so that's what I assume is that's where he's coming from. So you saw The Last Jedi. Now get ready to see The First Jedi is basically what I think they're saying. You saw Luke on Ahch-To with the Prime Jedi symbol. Now we're going all the way back to the beginning to see that guy in action.
Yeah, I think what gets me excited the most is that this is going to be an almost totally original story, and that it's going to let, this is going to let us really, like, totally unshackled, totally unchained, and something that we can, if it's done right, which with the director and Disney being involved, there's no reason to, there's been some missteps before, sure, but they still got made. This one's going to be a good one too.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And what you said earlier really intrigued me, that this could turn into a trilogy. I think all three of the films that we have to talk about today have the potential to turn into their own trilogies. And I think that they're a trilogy in themselves, not that they're connected. I think they'll all be a little loosely connected. They'll wink and nod at each other just as, the dice from Solo showed up in The Last Jedi. But I think they'll all connect loosely, and that they're going to form essentially their own past, present, and future of Star Wars trilogy, because you have the Dawn of the Jedi as the past, Rey's New Jedi Order as the future, and then we have the now perfect time to mention the next movie set during the New Republic era that will be the present of Star Wars, the Mandoverse film directed by Dave Filoni that you called just a couple of our podcast episodes ago.
Yeah, and so the foundation for that is this is what they did in the 90s and early 2000s, is a lot of TV shows would have several episodes or several seasons and then do a movie. It's kind of like a mid, like X-Files is the most prominent one that comes to mind, right? They actually did 2 movies for X-Files. And then the other speculation is that there's too many storylines to wrap up. And we're too invested in the characters that we need to see this. And that's how they described it at Celebration, was a culmination of which they said we're 6 to 7 years away. And I'm fine, right? I mean, we want them to get it right. We want, the characters have to face adversity, which they are today, right? This Mandalorian rebirth arc is really cool. We've talked about it a lot. But in Star Trek, even between seasons and some of their movies, it's these galaxy-altering things. And that's what the movies are about, right? Is the galaxy is on the line type thing. Well, I think you said it, Carter. There's nothing where the galaxy's on the line here. This is just the Mandalorians and some Imperial weirdos out trying to their last throes of power being expunged, right?
Right. That was my pushback on your speculation from a couple episodes ago, was just that where the Mandalorian sits now, the stakes are not high enough for a film. It's just because of the Star Wars films we're used to seeing, the stakes aren't high enough. Because every Star Wars film other than Solo, it's about the fate of the galaxy. And so to see a Mandalorian film that wouldn't be about that, I don't know if they could deliver on that. And specifically in that context, we were talking about that being the first movie back. Like that being the first Star Wars movie after, however long since The Rise of Skywalker. And so I didn't think that could deliver, because Solo felt, they'd already had 3 films all about the fate of the galaxy. You could tell a smaller scale story about a really familiar character. But now that The Mandalorian's one, it will be after 2 other films that will be telling galaxy-defining stories. But I think this is going to be a galaxy-defining story anyway, because in interviews, Dave said he was going to draw on Legends in the Expanded Universe to tell this story. There's a lot going on in that time period that we talked about during our rapid reactions that's going to tie into Ahsoka. And so there's a lot that show can be moving in the direction, but with a 7 to 9 year outlook on when that show can premiere, or on when that film can premiere, 6 to 7 year outlook on when that film can premiere, we're going to have, 5 seasons of The Mandalorian, 2 seasons of Ahsoka, a Skeleton Crew, Boba Fett. Like, we're going to have a giant chunk of TV that this film is going to be tying all of those ends together. And that's not to mention Rebels and the Clone Wars that are absolutely going to get nods in this stuff, because from the Ahsoka trailer that we're going to talk about in a moment, we are clearly getting Rebels season 5 with that show, and that's a good thing in my opinion.
Right, and there's it seems to me that there's from Disney's perspective, there's too much opportunity. Like Ahsoka dies at some point because her voice was speaking to Rey at the end of Rise of Skywalker, right?
Right.
Well, you know, big things happen in TV shows. Characters die, but like, you know, not Filoni's baby, and almost quite literally, right? And so that's where I think these big events are going to occur. You know, we're going to have like, this is all pure speculation. We love to do it, but like in a film or even a small series of film, this is where Ahsoka dies. This is where Grogu comes into his own. This is where Grogu saves his dad, or his dad dies in Grogu's arms, or something like that. Or, I mean, who knows? And then, yeah. This isn't just. I feel like I'm so focused on Mandalorian. It's not just that. It's Ahsoka. It's Skeleton Crew. I mean, this show ties into that same era, right? This is going to create some characters, hopefully that are a major influence on this. And then Boba Fett. I mean, and Cobb Vanth, they tease him at the end of that, right? What's going to happen?
Right.
Maybe it's the Tatooine Star Empire that I don't know.
Right. No, I understand. You're right.
But
Dave and John are telling a story right here, and it's going to tie together with this movie.
Yeah, and it's going to wrap up. That's what I think the goal is, to wrap up a bunch of storylines for these characters that makes it something pivotal that is going to be really fun. That they don't want to do just, oh yeah, it's on Disney Plus, come watch it. Yeah, they wanted some fanfare behind it.
Yep. And we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that it's about the New Republic versus the Imperial Remnant, which, from things we saw in the Ahsoka trailer and things we already know from The Mandalorian, there's a lot that we can do in this era with it being alluded to the Legends and the Expanded Universe stories. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, and Timothy Zahn's stories from those eras that we can tap into that, you know, Dave is a fan of that stuff, and Dave wants to pay homage to those stories while also telling his own story. And so I think we're going to see an epic melding of those two things.
Yep. Yeah, you're exactly right. Yep.
And so I don't know where that can go. You know, we say, and we're going to get in this to this in a moment, Ahsoka mentions the words heir to the Empire in her trailer for her show. And this heir to the Empire is one of the most famous books in Star Wars. It's what saved Star Wars in the 90s. It started the Star Wars Expanded Universe for all intents and purposes. And it's where the character of Thrawn was first introduced. But it's a trilogy of books. And perhaps the Ahsoka show is going to tell the first two books, and then this is going to be the last book called The Last Command. And that's what this movie kind of wraps up as, is The Last Command, but with different characters, because those books originally were told with Luke, Han, and Leia.
Right. Yeah, and isn't that going to be fun? I mean, and yeah, that's a good. This movie's going to be where that wraps up, I think, and has all these characters involved between Boba Fett, Mandalorian, Grogu. Yeah, there's just so much potential there too. The future is very bright.
No, you're absolutely right. The future is bright, and it's nice to see them pay homage to the past, and for them to say, hey, you know, we understand the super popular stories that came before. That's what was all about Thrawn getting introduced in Rebels. I mean, it was a huge deal because people wanted to see him. He is, you know, I would confidently say he is the most popular Expanded Universe character.
Yeah,
he was the most popular character from that time period.
He's too good not to give a good closing story to.
Exactly. And they were already folding in so many elements from the Expanded Universe that weren't unpopular, but that were not Thrawn popular, and so they had to get him in. And so it was super exciting to see, and I'm very happy that Dave is going to be wrapping up his storyline. So that wraps up our 3 Star Wars films. If you can't tell, we're super pumped about them.
There's one more. They still talked about Taika Waititi's movie.
That's true. You're right. I'm sorry. They did mention in an interview on the side that Kathleen Kennedy did, she was asked about Taika Waititi's movie. She was also asked about Kevin Feige's movie. The two answers are, to Waititi's movie, she said that it's still going, it's in a process, he's got a unique voice and that they don't want to be interfering that much in what he's doing. So they're kind of just letting Taika take his time. But it looks like it's not going to be around until the 2030s at this point because they would have announced the date by now.
Or
we would know
details,
a little bit more.
right.
Exactly. And then Feige's movie, she said, that's it. There's no Feige movie. That was a rumor. That was never going to happen. I don't believe that for a second. They did not officially announce Feige's movie. That's true. But Feige had said he was doing it. And the sources that broke that was going to happen were really reputable. Those claims were really valid. And so I think this is just Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm saving a little bit of face because lately the projects that they've announced have not come to fruition. And so they don't want to add another tally mark to the scoreboard on Star Wars that didn't make it. Or,
Right.
The Star Wars graveyard. They don't want to have another headstone in the Star Wars graveyard. And so, and I don't blame her. I wouldn't want that to be out there. And if it truly was a leak, and we know they never officially announced it, so getting ahead of it with like this is prudent, but it's probably not true. It probably was going to happen, and it fell apart for some reason.
Yep. What was the last movie you mentioned at Star Wars Celebration?
Oh, so 2020 was when we got those big announcements, and really the big one that came out of that had a...
I'm talking about the next one we have to talk about on our list.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant the old ones. I thought you wanted a rendition of why Rogue Squadron fell on its face.
No.
What she did, well, we should mention that real quick.
Another time.
That is. Good quote. Thanks, Maz. But I will mention Rogue Squadron briefly. Kennedy was also asked about this movie, and she said, nothing's truly shelved at Lucasfilm. It's always reworked. It could still be a film. It could be a TV show, which means they aren't going to do anything with it right now, but that story still exists, and they're probably not going to have anyone, play around in that time period too much where that would have taken place or with those characters. That maybe it'll get released as something. Usually when this happens, it's not going to come out as a film or a TV show. They're probably in a decade going to be like, hey, we found this story on the shelf over here. Let's give it to some writer and let's have him make a novel or a 5-issue comic book about it. And that's probably what's going to happen. But we'll still get the story. I mean, not to say that comics and novels are, any less. I mean, they're great mediums to tell Star Wars stories. So
Right.
I think the Rogue Squadron stuff could be good in a novel or in a comic book because the original Rogue Squadron novels, the original X-Wing novels, those were told as books, and they were a super successful series. They made it up to book 11 or 12.
Right. What's next?
So the next movie that was announced at Star Wars Celebration is the one that's coming out soonest, the one that comes out on June 30th, the day before my birthday, and I'm totally going to go see it for my birthday because I am a huge Indiana Jones fan, is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Are you going to have a party at the theater? Can we do that?
Yeah, just like the old little kid parties at the movie theater. You invite all your friends, you all get popcorn, you rent out a theater.
Buy a whip and a fedora for everybody. We can all run around the theater whip cracking people.
Yeah. I my 11th birthday was Indiana Jones theme. I think I've mentioned that on this podcast before, but Indiana Jones, my favorite movie of all time is Raiders of the Lost Ark. I am a massive Star Wars fan. I know a bunch about the Star Wars galaxy, and I love these movies, but my favorite movie of all time is Raiders of the Lost Ark. So I'm really excited for Dial of Destiny.
Oh, gosh. Did you watch we watched the trailer, right? I've watched it 4 or 5 times.
Oh, yeah.
Getting all the details. Yeah. Are they going to go back in time?
I think so. The Dial of Destiny implies there's going to be some time travel. Most of the show is set in the 60s, but we get at the very least, a flashback, if not straight back in time, to Indy's service during World War II. We're back to fighting Nazis in the Indiana Jones movies. The Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade were both against the Nazis. Temple of Doom was against some cultists, and Crystal Skull was against the Russians. And so now we're back to fighting Nazis again. And from the trailer, he says he wants to correct Hitler's mistakes, and we have no idea what that means from that guy.
Yeah,
and so it's an exciting premise. Yeah, exactly. It's got to be, absolutely evil. And we're getting a really cool. I don't know the actress's name. I should know her name. She's not a small time actress at all, actually. But the supporting role, or the co-star, I should say, for Harrison Ford is his goddaughter Helena, and she is played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. And I'm super excited because just from the trailer, their dynamic seems cool and fresh. Seems a little bit better than Indy's son, I would say, Mutt Williams. No offense to Shia LaBeouf, but I was not a Crystal Skull fan. And so I'm really excited about this dynamic that they've got going on.
Yeah, she was in Solo. She was L337.
Really? Was she? I did not know that. That is so cool. Yeah. I had no idea. She was the voice of L337. That's awesome.
Yeah, so she's coming back to the Disney family, getting her on
and she's
screen. She's done a bunch of other stuff. She was in No Time to Die.
Yeah, she's like I said, she's a prolific actor. Her name just slipped my mind. I definitely knew who she was because she is a very famous actor. As well as
go ahead.
As well as another Star Wars. So the three Billings are old Star Wars actors: Harrison Ford, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and then Mads Mikkelsen. Galen Erso is the villain. He's the Nazi villain. Jürgen Voller is his name.
Yeah, that's good. Man, I grew up as well watching Indiana Jones. I can't say I remember when they came out. I think it's a little bit too small even still. The not Crystal Skull, obviously, but I remember when the third one came out. What's it called with the Holy Grail?
The Last Crusade.
The Last Crusade. I remember being at the theater, man. You talk about time of your life. And then Temple of Doom was my most formative movie. Me and my kids watched that. The scenes where they're eating the monkey brains and the eyeball soup, they just, as a little kid, they bowl you over and show how bombastic they are, right? Or the whole movie pulling the heart out of the guy's chest, and that all those things that are so off the top. I hope they recreate some of these things in this movie. That just, and it's not just that, Like I said, Temple of Doom is the one I watched most recently. He escapes from the Chinese gangsters, and he closes the door, and it's the gangsters' plane that they're escaping on. So they're like, whatever. It's just all these little details that are just really cool and hilarious at the same time that they all had. Like I said, these are the ones that are just most prominent in my mind. But I cannot wait for this one. Cannot wait for your birthday party. I'm going to go cosplay this one as best I can. We're going to have fun.
It is. It's going to be a good time. Definitely going to be a good time. So that wraps up our indie coverage. We didn't want to spend too much time on it, but we have to honor, as another Lucasfilm property, we got to talk about Indiana Jones. The next section of the podcast is we're going to talk about TV. Despite how exciting this film news is, we got a lot more TV news to talk about. I mean, we got a bunch of TV news. We got eight or nine series worth of news to talk about. And so we're going to hop right into it. Go ahead.
It's not just casual news either. Everything is cram-packed with details. I mean, and we didn't even get to see them all. There were trailers that we've only seen leaked clips and slight descriptions of. Oh my goodness. Exactly.
It's a ton of info. It was an info dump on TV. I mean, Star Wars was obviously started out as films, and it's only been TV. Star Wars has only been on your television set for 4 years. It's really, that came out in December of 2019, so it's really only been 3 years. And it's crazy how much TV content, and I'm sorry, it hasn't just been on your screen since 2019. We obviously had the Clone Wars and Rebels, and even before that, there was Ewoks and droids. But for live action Star Wars, which is the majority of this news, we've only had it 3 years on your TV screen, and that is really crazy to see how far it's come already. So the first chunk of news to talk about is the biggest chunk of news. This may be the biggest news out of Celebration. It may even have eclipsed the film news, and that is that Ahsoka has a release date, August 2023, and a trailer. And it was amazing.
Yeah, it is. Is amazing the right word? I don't think words exist just to describe how pumped I am for this trailer.
It was, it was amazing.
How pumped I am for the show. And you said it earlier, Carter. It's Rebels Season 5. And, oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I know. That's all you can say is Dawson, my goodness.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I'm going to butcher her name. I'm sorry. Natasha Liu Bordizzo.
I think you got it. I think that's it. Yeah.
Nicholson.
David Tennant.
David
Tennant. Oh, I'm so excited. Best
Lars
British
Mikkelsen.
actor.
Yeah.
Lars Mikkelsen. I know. It's the cast is stacked, man, and a lot of people, a lot of new characters, and a lot of old characters.
Orange
before
lightsabers.
Orange lightsabers. Before we get too into it, we have a Rapid Reactions recording. We released it on our Patreon early. If you haven't subscribed to our Patreon, you should really check it out because you get things like our Rapid Reactions early. We did the Rapid Reactions on Friday. So that's been out for 3 days for all our patrons to hear. So they got our first thoughts around Ahsoka. Also, our Patreon is used to fund things like this special. You can get these specials early on our Patreon at different tiers. So go check out our Patreon to hear all of this stuff. But now we're releasing our Rapid Reactions to all of you in the public. Here they are.
He doesn't seem to take a hint, this guy.
Colin, we've got it. We've got the first look at the Ahsoka trailer. You and I just sat down and saw it. What are your first reactions?
Chills. It's so good to have Ahsoka back. You can tell they've, just in these little bits, they've put a lot of thought into how this character moves and acts and talks. And then all these rebel characters that we get. Sabine, Chopper, Hera Syndulla, and then former Inquisitors that they get to fight the whole time. These people are nameless, right?
Yeah, so it's so much going on in the trailer. There's a ton there. Those people with the red lightsabers, they reference the Heir to the Empire. She says that term, which is the original books that Thrawn were introduced in the 90s. I gotta think that guy, the white-bearded man, is probably Joruus C'baoth, who was a evil Jedi Knight that had fallen before the Empire. And then I also got to think that perhaps the blonde dark side user is a take on Mara Jade, and she will not be called Mara Jade because people would be too upset because in the old expanded universe, Luke and Mara Jade get married.
Right.
But I do think that her character is similar enough to that. I don't think they're Inquisitors. I think that there's going to be, like I said, Joruus C'baoth in the original books is a fallen Jedi Knight from before the Empire. And so he was involved in all kinds of stuff called the Outbound Flight Project. Things people will just have to check out on Wikipedia because it's way too long to explain for these rapid reactions. But I know, brand new Force users, brand new ships. We're going to get it chock full of lightsaber battles. And this is a lot of content for what I assume is an 8-episode series.
Yeah, there's so much in here. So many different locations. They're on Lothal, right? We see the city in the distance.
Yeah, we get live action Lothal.
Ezra's hovel or whatever you call that place. That was really cool. Sabine.
Right. And exactly. We get first look at live action Sabine. We get first look at live action Hera. We get Hui Yang at the end of this. I mean, we've gotten a lot of really cool animation to live action moments here, and it's all done really well. I mean, Mary Elizabeth Winstead looks amazing as Hera. Sabine looks great. I think everybody looks so good.
Yeah, we're going to have to do our full breakdown and pause this almost frame by frame just to take it all in. They packed so much into this. And then, why isn't Sabine in her Mando armor? What's going on with that?
Right, exactly. She's just staring at the helmet, and you're totally right. And who are those red guards with the electro staves? I mean, there's a lot going on here. And these New Republic ships are just getting destroyed. It's awesome. We're seeing more of the New Republic government, but we see Mon Mothma now as the new head of state for the New Republic government. We see Hera Syndulla, general of the New Republic military. Super exciting.
And it's in August. This is relatively not long at all that we get to enjoy this.
No, it's not at all. It's coming very, very soon. We're going to be building up to it. We're so excited for it. And the set pieces, like you said, they all look so good and they're so different. I mean, where the lightsaber battle happens with who I'm calling Joruus C'baoth for now, there's like holograms around there, and it kind of looks like the World Between Worlds, and it's not, I don't believe, but that's what it looks like. Yeah. Also, yeah, you're right. One of those guys is totally an Inquisitor. The one with the double-bladed lightsaber, like it's signature Inquisitor look right there.
Yeah, so cool. So you put it best. So many lightsaber fights, man. This is wild. And I
know. Really, I didn't expect this many Force users in Ahsoka.
It really and truly is the live action continuation of Rebels. It's so fun.
I do think I do think that the fact that we still haven't gotten live action Ezra, we get his little hologram, but we haven't gotten the actual character on screen is a good tease. I'm excited that they're still saving live action Ezra. And, we didn't really get live action Thrawn right there. We got the back of his head. We don't even know who they've cast for that role yet. So it is super, super exciting.
Yeah, super exciting. It's an understatement almost.
Right, exactly. We see Ahsoka's live action shuttle. It's escorted by X-Wings. I mean, it is... And we're getting replays of scenes that we saw in Rebels. We're getting remade live action versions of that. It is really cool. I can't wait. The bridge of this ship that Thrawn is on looks... And it just looks really, really odd. Like Morgan Elsbeth is on that bridge as well. And we don't... What does that mean? And, like Ahsoka says, he's coming back as heir to the Empire. I think they're really going to lean into that plot line, but it's not going to be a one-for-one retelling. I mean, it can't be. The original Heir to the Empire story was about the 3 original characters from the original trilogy. And so we've got Hera, Sabine, Ahsoka, and Ezra soon. And you can't tell the same story with just them. But I do think that we're going to get a really, really good homage to that story. I hope that Timothy Zahn is involved in the making of this show.
Yeah, it's over the top. I just can't. I'm baffled. I really can't say much. Hu Yang?
Yeah, no, it's super exciting.
Who's voicing that? You said you schooled me on the last podcast. I should know who it is.
Yeah, David Tennant. David Tennant voices the original Hu Yang. But I didn't catch if it was the same voice actor, if it was David Tennant or not. I'll have to go back and listen again to that line to see if it was David Tennant. I hope it is. I mean, again, I really like David Tennant as an actor, and he did a good job as Hu Yang in the cartoon. But yeah, just really, really cool to get to see what's going on here. And like you said, it comes out soon. Ahsoka's coming out in August, like you said. So it's only, from the time of recording this, it's only 3 months away, 4 months away, depending on what part of August it debuts in. Yep. And that's, for trailer to series, that's a lot shorter than some things that we've gotten. And so I'm really, really excited about it. I'll bet you, though, they released the trailer today. They've got the Ahsoka panel tomorrow. It's the big panel. They're going to screen about the first 10 minutes of that show that'd be something. Really cool. They're going to screen something for the people at Celebration. I'm envious that I'm not there, but something's coming out for them. I guarantee it.
Yep.
Okay, well, I think that wraps up our rapid reactions to the Ahsoka trailer. For anyone listening on Patreon, we're going to continue to try and bring you rapid reactions to other things. We've got some exciting movie news. I don't think we might record a rapid reaction to that, but it's less trailer reaction and more just discussion. So we probably save that for our news segment. But yeah, if you're sitting on our Patreon, you're already in the Discord, so come talk with us about it. And thanks for listening, guys, and we will be back soon with more Star Wars news coverage. So, those were our rapid reactions, and you can tell Colin and I are just stunned. I mean, what, Colin? This was announced at like 5:30 in the morning, our time, and we didn't wake up for it like we do an episode of The Mandalorian, but as soon as we woke up, we got together and started recording about it, and so it was, 5 minutes from seeing the trailer to immediate recording, and it was just, thoughts were zooming through my head. I couldn't keep it all straight.
Yeah, and since then, people have dissected the trailers and looked at all these little details. And it's just incomprehensible how many they are.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much here. God.
And then, let's put it this way. What's your favorite part? If you can recall any of this stuff.
I think that the reveal for me was honestly the reveal that we're getting new dark side villains and the orange lightsabers that they have may have been the number one thing for me, because I knew we were getting the Rebels crew back. Everybody knew we were getting the Rebels crew back. It was been telegraphed for maybe more than a year now, and that's super exciting. But to see them come up with some brand new villains that are going to be dark side users that are aligned with Admiral Thrawn, that's exciting. And I've got to say, in the reactions, I said, oh, maybe the bearded character, the bearded dark side user is Jorah Saboath from Heir to the Empire, but he's not. His name is Balin Skull. And so he is and we already have a character description for him. A dark Jedi, fallen, And the woman in the trailer, Shin Hati, is his apprentice. And like you said, orange lightsabers. They're not red. And people thought maybe it's a special effect that hasn't been realized yet, hasn't been fleshed out. No, those are orange lightsabers, which is exciting because we don't even know what that means. We have no idea what that means. We have never seen those on screen. It's not the Legends meanings. Jedi used to use those. I mean, these are dark side users for sure.
Yeah, they're opposing Ahsoka. And so my favorite part is the one scene where it's Balin versus Ahsoka, and it looks like they're in the world between worlds. I mean,
yes, it does.
The implications for this is just uncanny, and I hope they're very careful with this because we don't want to let it get too far out of whack, right? But my goodness, what's going on here?
I know. Yeah, there are so many directions that can go in, and I just want to wait to see. But because we don't know if it's the world between worlds, but it sure looks like it. Golly, it looks like the world between worlds.
I mean, with this Balin character, we got another hallway fight scene that we get to talk about.
I know. We see the New Republic government in action. We see Supreme Chancellor Mon Mothma as a hologram. And it's Genevieve O'Reilly from Andor. And, Andor is really made as a siloed, standalone product from Tony Gilroy. And I really appreciate that about Andor. I don't even want that to change. But just the fact that Genevieve O'Reilly is in this is a really, really cool, consistent line that we can trace right here to just show it's all connected. Andor is connected to all of this new stuff, as well as connected to the original trilogy, as well as connected to Rogue One. Like, it's just continuing that, and all they have to do is put Genevieve O'Reilly in there.
Yeah, excellent stuff.
And so the 4 senators standing around her are all New Republic senators. The guy immediately to Mon Mothma's left, so the viewer's right of Mon Mothma, his name is Senator Xiono, and he is the dad of the main character in Star Wars Resistance, Kazuda Xiono, which is just a neat little tie-in. It's a show geared towards younger audiences. I watched the whole thing through once. I'll probably never watch it through again. Not because it was bad. It was good. I enjoyed it. It's geared for younger kids. And so, I'd background noise while I was watching it, but it's really cool to just have that little nod to Resistance, because that was also a Dave Filoni project. Dave Filoni worked as hard on Resistance as he did the Clone Wars or Rebels.
Yeah, another thing was there was a Celebration exclusive trailer, and I think the most thing that people spoke about this was Sabine wields a green lightsaber. We have no idea what the context of that is, but that's intriguing, right? I mean, whether she picked it up or is helping somebody out. But no, in the stuff that we've seen, the publicly available stuff, there is no green saber anywhere. So, what's going on?
I think most people, and this is where I'm leaning, is I bet it's Ezra's lightsaber. And we see a hologram of live-action Ezra Bridger, but it's kind of still. Like, that looks like a still image picture, because he looks younger, he's wearing his younger Rebels garb, and he's got his lightsaber on his hip, which we know he gave up at the end of Rebels. And so, I think it's likely Sabine is wielding Ezra's lightsaber, like we've seen her do before. She does it at the beginning of Season 4 of Rebels, when she fights Gar Saxon.
Right. Boy, that would be neat.
I know. Wouldn't it be cool? And the last little bit of speculation I'll say, this is the definition. Oh, and I wanted to mention, the extended trailer for us EU readers and for us X-Wing players, you and me, Colin, we loved X-Wing, is what looks like an E-Wing in the very, very, like three little screens of that trailer. There looks like there's an E-Wing in the background, which is an expanded universe ship. It'd be neat to see that thrown in there because they haven't canonized that. And one of the bigger complaints about the sequels was there was like no development in ship technology, really. I mean, it was new X-Wings, new TIE fighters, but no new looks like the prequels gave us. And so that would be cool, as if that we had that little look. But on to the most irresponsible speculation that I'm going to throw out on this podcast is Ahsoka's fighting an Inquisitor. We know it's an Inquisitor. It's got a red lightsaber instead of an orange one. And it's got the signature spinny circle hilt that all the Inquisitors have. Calling it right now. That Inquisitor is Barriss Offee from the Clone Wars.
Yeah, that's something. That'd be a good wrap-up of that little story.
I know. Well, so many people want to see the wrap-up. That wrap-up directly had to do with Ahsoka as a character. Barriss obviously fell to the dark side, and that arc does not take place very long before Revenge of the Sith. And so I think that is a extremely likely place for that to land is that lightsaber wielder is Barriss Offee. And that is my declaration of this on this podcast. I don't know. I wish there was something that would happen if I won or if I was wrong. But there's not. But I am telling you right now, I am positive it's Barriss Offee.
Yeah, I hope you're right. That's going to be something. Let's see. For me to give some speculation, I'm not sure. I think this Thrawn stuff is going to be minimal. I think it's going to be a lot of looking around and searching stuff, but it's just not going to be a bunch of stuff going on. How many episodes is it going to be? 6 or 8? You know?
Yeah,
I think we're not going to get
a
good view of him until season 2. I think it's going to be a cliffhanger.
I think you're right. I think that the finale will deal with Thrawn and Ezra. And before that, we're not going to get either of them. And then season 2, we're going to get Ezra in action with Ahsoka. And I think all of that will kind of fit together.
Yep. Looking forward to this one in a major way.
Oh, big time.
And we get it
big
this
time.
year.
Yeah, we do get it this year. We get it in just a few months. And we're going to be doing big lead-ups to this. I mean, we're certainly going to try to have an Ahsoka retrospective. We did The Mandalorian Revisited. We're probably going to do Rebels Revisited, do another roundtable discussion with some of our buddies and some of our listeners, some of our longtime podcast listeners. We're going to sit down, talk about Rebels, talk about what this means for Ahsoka and where that story capped off and what it's set up for Ahsoka. For any of our listeners who haven't seen the show or might not go watch it, you'll be able to watch that. And also, hopefully, we'll visit some of Ahsoka's most important arcs in the Clone Wars and really be able to discuss what that means for her character as well. Right. And so we've got a lot of stuff planned for the summer to kind of bridge the gap between The Mandalorian and Ahsoka, and we're really excited for you guys to join us on that. So just stay tuned, and we're going to have more announcements about that as they come out. As needed, we'll have more announcements about that. Colin, the next episode of TV that we're going to talk about is also set in this time period. I think we need to deal with all of the stories that are connected because some of these Star Wars projects are going to stand on their own, and some of these Star Wars projects are going to be more connected. And so the next piece of Star Wars is, it's interesting. We did not get a lot of information about this show, and it is the next one after Ahsoka. We know that it's coming out this year also. It's likely to come out December, maybe November, but likely December. It's going to be like a Christmas time thing. They want Star Wars to be synonymous with the holidays. And so that is Skeleton Crew. Skeleton Crew, we know, is set during this era. We know it's going to tie into The Mandalorian and Ahsoka. And we got a little bit of information, and we got some reinforcement of some info that we had. It's going to be akin to the Goonies. It's going to be about children. It's going to be about children who ran away from home, and Jude Law's in it. But there's a lot of other details that we got in it too. What do you think about Skeleton Crew, Colin? Are you excited? Do you have some trepidation? What do you think about the lack of news that we got around it? I just want to hear your thoughts.
Oh, actually, I'm really excited, and I hope they deliver with what they say. I forget who said it exactly, but it's going to have akin to the Goonies type of vibe. And gosh, that was one of my formative movies, akin to Temple of Doom, like I said earlier. And for anyone who hasn't seen the Goonies, it's an adventure movie where they go find a long lost pirate treasure, and they go through a bunch of Rube Goldberg type booby traps and devices to go find it, with bad guys pursuing them the whole time. So if that premise is even slightly akin to it, obviously with the Star Wars vibe, with Jude Law playing the teacher as a Jedi teacher to these children, it's going to be, I think it's going to be off the charts. It's something that my kids are really going to enjoy, especially if one of the children is going to be the same species and Ortolan, Max Rebo type alien.
I know.
Can you imagine?
Max Rebo's such a fan favorite, and I don't know of any others that we've gotten. So it's really cool that we're getting one right now.
So, there's something else a little blurred. The children ran away from their parents, and so they're being rescued by a Jedi character. So that says to me that they're on some sort of a quest or some sort of a rescue mission, or something like that, maybe after an object or an artifact or something.
Right.
And I think it's a high bar to high bar to meet up, right? You know, the Goonies. I mean, they're setting an expectation there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a bunch of child actors, and so they have to deliver if it's going to be good. If it's too campy, if it's too unbelievable, if it's too this or that, it's not gonna hit the mark, right? But I mean, Disney does kid stuff all the time, and so I know I'm going to watch it enthusiastically, given what I've just spoke about. I'll say that for now.
Yeah, we saw that at Celebration there was a trailer premiered. We've seen some grainy cell phone footage. It's hard to hear on those kind of videos, and so we don't want to spend too much time on them. Hopefully that trailer will release sometime online. You know, last Celebration they did Ahsoka, and that trailer did not. This Ahsoka trailer was different than the one they premiered at Celebration. I don't think we're ever going to see the Celebration Ahsoka trailer originally. And it's probably all, used footage. We probably saw all of it in this new trailer. But hopefully they're going to release the Skeleton Crew trailer relatively soon so we can get a little more familiar with it. But from that trailer, we can glean that Jude Law's character is the teacher. And like you said, he's a Jedi. And so he is, like you said, he's a Force user. We know from previous interviews that Jude Law and the kids are lost in space, and that they're lost in an area of uncharted space or like a different part of space. That part's a little murky, but a yet unexplored area of Star Wars space. And we don't really know what that means. That could mean they're in a part of the like they're visiting planets we've never heard of, but they are squarely in the Star Wars galaxy. Or it could mean they're out of the galaxy, or they're on the fringes of wild space, or they're in the unknown regions. That can go in a lot of different ways, but we know that it's like an exploration show. And like you said, it's kind of a kid's show, and it's not a kid's show insofar as it's geared towards children. I mean, this is going to be, it's still live action, it's still for adult Star Wars fans, but it's a family show. Like, Andor got a little dark, Andor got a little intense. You might not show your 7-year-old Andor, but you would show your 7-year-old basically everything else in Star Wars. But this is firmly, this is the family-oriented Star Wars that you're after. Then that's what Skeleton Crew's going to deliver, and I think it's going to be fun. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Any Star Wars is good Star Wars. I mean, you have to take the good with the bad, and there's so little bad. There's so much good. And this is going to be another good one. I'll stake my reputation on this thing.
Yeah,
honestly, because
I agree. It's
going to be. There's too much. I think they have it figured out. I think they have it dialed in. I really think so.
I would agree. So the next little bit. This is one of the smaller pieces of news we have, but it's still in this time period. Still connected to Skeleton Crew and Ahsoka. And so we'll talk about it. We didn't get like a Mando exclusive panel or anything. But what we did get was an exclusive screening of the next episode. Comes out 2 days, April 12th. It'll be Chapter 23 of The Mandalorian. I am thoroughly impressed with myself. I've been able to avoid any kind of spoilers, despite refreshing Star Wars Twitter constantly, looking for Celebration updates. But the only info I've gotten is that people loved it. That Chapter 23 was so cool, is what I've heard. That's all I've heard, and that I'm excited. My expectations are probably a little high for this one, and so I really hope it delivers, because all these fans who are saying, maybe Chapter 22 fell a little short, or maybe this season hasn't felt like it has a good direction. Well, even people who have been saying that, who got to see this Chapter 23, have had nothing but high praise for the episode.
Yeah, Rick Famuyiwa is directing these last 2 episodes. I'm sorry I butchered that, but
I don't know how to say it. I think it's Rick Famuyiwa. But your guess is as good as mine. I don't actually know. I've always said Famuyiwa, but I don't know. I've heard it a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, the temptation to not seek out rumors on this stuff. I mean, because Carter, my hands were hovering over the keyboard, ready to go into that deep dark side of rumors and stuff like that.
Right.
To figure out, I want to know what's going on, and I decided against it. I'm thankful I didn't. But seriously, and then too, the fear of missing out is real. I texted you personally, it was right when they found out this little tidbit of news. Is like, I wish we were there. I wish we'd have put forth the effort because I want to be the ones. And they released a poster that all of those attendees got that I don't have, and like, think of the opportunity to get that poster signed by all these actors. I still might pick one up. I don't know, but we'll post it on our Instagram what it looks like. And
you're right. We do need to post it. It's a cool looking poster.
And so I really want to go to the next one because I don't want to miss out on this stuff again.
Yeah, you're right. I don't want to miss out on it either. But it was cool. I'm happy people got to see it. Like you said, big FOMO, but I'm really, really excited for Wednesday. I'm more excited for Wednesday than I have been in a few weeks. Probably since this season was going to come out. I'm at the level of anticipation for the next episode than I was at the very first episode of season 3 because it's the penultimate episode. And I did not get any spoilers, but my little cousin, who I referenced earlier when talking about the sequel trilogy, he knows about it. He read about the episode. He read all the spoilers he could. He's that kind of guy. He wants to know if it's out there. He's reading about it. He spoils everything for himself, and so he just told me that he loves the premise. That he was like, "This is super cool. I'm super excited," and I have no idea what that means. He loves Tarkin, and he loves the Empire, and he loves the sequels, and he's got all kinds of Star Wars interests. And so, but if it spoke to him, then that just means that we're probably getting something really cool, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, so pumped. Wednesday morning is going to be amazing, and then next Wednesday
for the ultimate episode. Yeah, yep. Everyone definitely tune in here, and if you're not subscribed to the Patreon, like I mentioned earlier, we get our rapid reactions out there early. I mean, Colin and I have our rapid reactions up by 7:30 Central Time, no later than 8 o'clock Central Time, ever. 8 a.m. Central Time. And so you're going to be able to hear those reactions to the episodes immediately. And so it's really, really cool. And I know that our patrons have loved it. And so if you're not subscribed to our Patreon, that's just the $5 tier. So really check it out if you're interested. And if you like our rapid reactions, you're going to want to hear it. The last little piece of news about The Mandalorian is Jon Favreau teased that the story might be coming to an end soon, that there might be an end in sight. Given previous interviews, I don't think that season 4 will be that, but that's why I'm pretty confident. I bet The Mandalorian is going to be a 5-season TV show. He has 4 written. I bet we get all of 4, and then 5 is the last season, is my guess.
Followed by a movie, hopefully.
Oh, yeah, followed by a movie. But that'll be, like we said, 6 to 7 years down the road. So that's 2 more years with a Mandalorian season. Certainly another season of Ahsoka, because Dave has already said that is not a limited series. That show is an ongoing series. Depending on the success of Skeleton Crew, we might see more. We know Favreau's been involved with Skeleton Crew. So, I mean, that's 4 seasons of TV building up to that in a 6 to 7 year time span. Certainly more down the road. And so I think that we're still going to be getting more Star Wars from Jon for a little while at least. Although I don't know if The Mandalorian, when all of it's wrapped up, when Dave's movie is done, if that might be Favreau's magnum opus and exit from Star Wars. Because, he's got a lot going on. He's got deals at Apple. He still does the Marvel stuff. He still directs Marvel movies. He still acts in Marvel movies. Jon Favreau is one of the most sought-after writer, director, producers in Hollywood. And so he's got a lot going on. He might have enjoyed his time with Star Wars and, moving on to different pastures. I wouldn't say greener pastures, but different pastures.
Now, I hope they pass the torch. I don't want to know an existence without Grogu in
it. Yeah. He'll have to sanction. He'll sanction the next era of Grogu, certainly. All right, so that wraps up our little Mandoverse TV show speculation. So now we've still got plenty to cover. We've still got, like I said, I think 6 things. So I'm going to give just a little tidbit of news. This is our smallest piece of news for the non-Mandoverse TV shows, and that is there was a panel about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen were there, but we have gotten confirmation that there are no plans to make Obi-Wan Season 2 happen right now. They said that maybe in the future that's a possibility, but there are no concrete plans for a second season. And Colin, I have to say, I'm happy about that. I really liked the way that was a limited series. I don't want to see another season.
The only thing I want to see is something happen with the path, right? I really like that aspect of it. I think that has the most potential. But we don't need any more of Obi-Wan's story. if there's anything else I want to see, to be something that happens with Darth Vader. There's a lot of comic books we've already talked about that have to do with that character. But Obi-Wan, I mean, what else can you do? I mean, you have to. The creators of whatever season already had to tread so lightly to not make some sort of glaring mistake, and then they just be repeating. You have to make a whole nother season of a show walking on eggshells. Oh, and the other thing is Reva's character. I certainly wouldn't mind seeing more of Moses Ingram playing Reva somewhere somehow. Hopefully some redemption or wielding an orange lightsaber somewhere. That surely. I don't know, have any idea what those orange lightsabers are about, but maybe they can fit that in somewhere. She has got a bunch of hatred in her heart for people who've done her wrong. And so, let's see more with the Path. Let's see more with Reva is what I would say.
I think there's a place for spiritual successors like you're talking about. Stuff with the Path, stuff with her. Those are all fine roads to go down. But as far as Ewan and Hayden's story goes, I don't think the sequel to that television show is needed in order. I think that it would just be fine to let that sleeping dog lie. I would say that people want more of their actors. I certainly want more of their actors. I don't ever want to say, I don't want more Hayden or Ewan. And so what I'd really like to see is maybe them try to go back to a pre-Attack of the Clones, Obi-Wan mullet, Anakin Padawan thing. The only thing I'll say is we saw a glimpse of that. The stuff in the flashbacks in Kenobi were of that, and they didn't do any de-aging on Hayden's face. They just did makeup, and fans were critical of it. I was critical of it. You were critical of it. He looked old. But they didn't apply de-aging technology. If you look at the Indiana Jones trailer, Harrison Ford looks just like he did when he was playing Indy in the 80s. And so if they hit Hayden and Ewan with de-aging technology on a 6-episode or 8-episode limited series about Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship as Master and Padawan, that show would totally sell. People would be all over that.
Right. And then just as a small counterpoint to that, the Clone Wars stuff, they could do a lot of live action stuff. I'm sure there's lots of little stories they could tell. But that is so married to Filoni, right? I mean, maybe they don't want to do that. Who knows?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. That's another area that people are clamoring for stories, and people just want to see these actors come back. I mean, they're really, really great actors. People love Hayden, they love Ewan, and so any way we can get them back is going to be good. People talk about Hayden is certainly in the Ahsoka series. I think we have confirmation of that. If we don't have confirmation of that, we all but have confirmation of that on rumors. And so Hayden is going to show up in that series somehow. People are going to be really excited about it, probably as a Force Ghost or as a flashback. But they have their place in the Star Wars universe, and people want to see them. I just don't think an Obi-Wan sequel is the way to go. So we've got some more standalone TV show Star Wars news, detached from the Mandoverse, and detached from any era we've explored so far. On the screen, we have The Acolyte to talk about. And Colin, we got a lot of news, and all of it was exciting.
Oh my gosh. What's your favorite show out of these setups? Man, I can't pick. I really can't.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, there's a lot. We have a lot to go on. We have a lot of really new ideas. The Acolyte is going to be, we've talked about it ad nauseum. It's going to be a show from the perspective of the villains. It's going to be like an anti-hero thing where it's the Sith, it's the bad guys, but you're still rooting for them. It's about the Sith still being in the shadows. The show takes place 100 years before the Phantom Menace at the very end of the High Republic era. And man, so I've been reading all the High Republic books. I've read all of the adult novels and all of the young adult novels that have come out so far. And it's one of the best eras in Star Wars publishing ever. This is a really fresh new timeline with really cool characters. I've got to say, some of my favorite Jedi ever have been written in this era. Mm-hmm. And one of those Jedi has been confirmed to show up in the TV series. She's a Padawan during the High Republic novels, and she's now going to be either a fully fledged master or a knight during the Acolyte, and that is Vernestra Rao. And I cannot wait to see them realize a character that ended up in a brand new novel from just a couple years ago is now going to be realized on the TV screen. That's exciting. If you work at Star Wars Publishing, you have got to be so happy that your ideas have been so well received.
Yeah, that's an achievement. I mean, superhero comic books are the most obvious low-hanging fruit when talking about this stuff. But in Star Wars, who's the other one? Black Chrysanthemum, right?
Yeah. Chrysanthemum, and then Cobb Vanth. He showed up in Aftermath.
Yeah. So this is a rare occurrence. And this show, it's told from a dark side perspective, is what we've said multiple times. But, I mean, they played a trailer, and Carrie Ann Moss from Matrix was one of the Jedi in that. There's a Nemoidian character that they talked about.
Yeah.
A bunch of different Jedi. One of the scenes that they talked about in this trailer we didn't get to see was several Jedi lined up igniting lightsabers, some of them being yellow. So, and this one's coming out in 2024. So it's going to be one of the things that we get to enjoy in that year before a film and probably more Mandalorian and more Ahsoka.
And where they're at in production, it's likely to be early 2024. It's honestly probably going to be this time of year, 2024. If Skeleton Crew comes out around the holidays, then I'll bet Acolyte's coming out around this time in 2024.
And so another from an interviewee who said something, who I forget who asked the question, who said it, but it was the Frozen meets Kill Bill.
I don't know. What do you think that means? I think that can mean so many things. That one raised my eyebrow. I've seen Frozen, I've seen Kill Bill. I don't really see how they're going to meet those two things.
That's quite the dichotomy because Kill Bill is a murder revenge fantasy with a body stacked high like a mountain, right? And then Frozen is a kid show.
Yeah, it's a Disney
about
princess cartoon.
Somebody's powers run amok. Right?
That's what I think. That's what I think the Frozen element's going to be. Is that this Jedi or this Sith? They don't know how to control their Force abilities. They must be extremely powerful, and they don't know what to do. I think that's what they're going to get from Frozen.
Right, but see, like Kill Bill is rated R. I mean, and they haven't said anything like this, and that's kind of like extreme. I mean, Andor was. I mean, we've even seen some elements in the Bad Batch of like characters committing suicide, and Andor had some really harsh scenes, and even Obi-Wan had people's hands getting chopped off or getting people killed with lightsabers. That was quote unquote worse than what we've seen in the past, right?
Oh, the Vader scene in Obi-Wan of him marching through that village was really brutal. I mean, it's the darkest Vader we've ever seen on screen.
Right. So, I mean, are we going to get, if they're alluding to something like Kill Bill, I mean, this is a Quentin Tarantino thing, and he pulls no punches when it comes to gore and violence. So, I mean, that's his signature. I hope they're exaggerating just a tad, because I want Star Wars to be for children too.
Yeah, I want it to stay family friendly. I'm totally in agreement. And you have to think we've heard, and a person who's been delivering a lot of interviews is the intimacy coordinator that they hired. An intimacy coordinator does not always mean adult content. It doesn't always mean adult situations, but that is what it means a lot of the time. And I would really hope that that's not the direction they're headed with this. I never want a piece of Star Wars that a kid can't consume at a pretty young age. I mean, I got introduced to Star Wars when I was 7. And then I grew into becoming a super fan by age 11 or 12. And my parents didn't even have to think twice about showing me anything that was Star Wars. There's nothing on the screen was going to bother me. I mean, Revenge of the Sith was PG-13, but that was just because of it was because of Anakin getting cut in half and getting burned alive. That was it. I mean, without that scene, I don't see how the Revenge of the Sith is even PG-13 at all. And so, it's to see Star Wars move from that being the only PG-13 thing to the potential for adult situations. I really hope that isn't the case. I really hope that they can continue to keep the PG-13 vibe. I mean, Andor is by far the darkest thing we've gotten in Star Wars. Like I said, I might not show my 7-year-old it. I think I would show an 11-year-old Andor. You're a parent. You have a way better handle on this than I do. But I would say that I just hope Acolyte stays within the bounds that Andor gave us. If it stays within what Andor gave us, that's totally fine. Because the Acolyte's premise is going to be dark, and it needs to be dark. I'm not saying we need to make it kiddie. It doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be the same tone as Skeleton Crew or the Young Jedi Adventures, but it definitely needs to be appropriate, is what I'm saying.
Exactly right. One of the coolest things, and I'm really anxious to see how this is going to play out, but on stage that came out with the showrunner Leslie Headland was a Wookiee Jedi, played by the same actor who plays Chewbacca, Joonas Suotamo.
Chewbacca in The Force Awakens and Solo. The sequels, not the original Chewbacca. We have to.
Not the original.
I want to make that differentiation, just because obviously Peter Mayhew just passed recently, just a couple of years ago, and he was such a titanic figure. But Joonas Suotamo, he definitely took the torch and ran with it, and he's been an awesome Chewie, and I'm sure he's going to be an awesome Wookiee Jedi.
Yes. So the Wookiee Jedi, you said it. That's going to be. We've seen Gungi, right? We've seen a couple other little Wookiee Jedis here and there, but this is going to be an adult. And Wookiees are fierce, right? That's their reputation. I'm sure that's their MO throughout all of time in all of the Star Wars universe. There's not some pacifist Wookiee on some planet somewhere, right? Especially if they're a peacekeeping Jedi. It's going to be quite a deal to see a Wookiee Jedi kicking butt out there. I can't wait.
Mm-hmm. Do we have the name for the Wookiee Jedi yet?
Yeah, let me see here. Kelnaka.
That's awesome. So there was in the old Legends universe, there was another Wookiee Jedi that came about during the new Jedi Order. His name was Lo Baka. And so it's cool to see that they're keeping on the Aka suffix.
Right.
Obviously not all of them are like Gungi, but yeah, it is cool to see. And yeah, so we see in the High Republic books, there is another Wookiee Jedi, Bur Yaga. And so it's nice to see another Wookiee getting incorporated, another Wookiee Jedi. This is, funnily enough, there's some Wookiee news that we're going to talk about in a little while. It's in the books section. One of the only pieces of book news that we have to talk about, but Wookiee fans, they were eating at this Star Wars celebration. If you're one of those guys that really, really likes Wookiees, then you were eating. Look, I think you might have just heard on the microphone my dog just barked. He kind of looks more like a Wampa. He's white and small and fluffy, but he kind of looks like a white Wookiee. So he's really excited. I just heard him bark that he loves Wookiees too. So we're gonna move on. Another more adult tone show that we loved. We did not do a episode by episode coverage of this show. Life was really getting both of us. I had just started a new job. And it just wasn't the right time for us to do this. And every day I'm sad that we did not do episode coverage of Andor Season 1. Because the Andor Season 2 announcements, I was so excited, man, when I got to hear these. I loved Andor. You loved Andor. Everybody I know, I've said, go watch that show. It got such low views, and that's because of the title. Cassian Andor is not a well-known character. And we kind of knew that going into it, but it had such critical acclaim, and it was just awesome. I mean, it was outside of being Star Wars. It was just a good TV show. And so the Season 2 panel, I was just as excited for it as I was Ahsoka or the new film announcements, because I can't wait to see Andor Season 2.
Right, and this one's going to be the last season. Takes place 1 year after Season 1, and each 3-episode block is going to take 1 year apart. Like 3 episodes, 1 year passes. 3 episodes, 1 year passes.
Right. Because we ended Season 1 at the very end of 5 ABY, I believe. Yeah, that would make sense. So we're going to do 4-3, 3-2, 2-1, and 1-0.
So they're going to pack a lot into this, and a lot of stories going to happen between these little mini arcs, right? Mm-hmm. And my gosh,
BBY, not ABY. I just said ABY. I want to make sure people out there know I meant BBY. Don't email us about that. Do not send me an email correcting us on the year. I promise I got it. You're right, though. I'm so excited about this show, man. It's going to be, like you said, they're halfway through filming. We got some leaks. We know Genevieve O'Reilly's coming back as Mon Mothma. They showed some scenes. Cyril Karn is going to have a way more substantial role. We know that it ends as soon as Cassian is headed to the Ring of Kaffrine, which is the beginning of Rogue One. And so I'm super excited. And the biggest piece of news is that Andy Serkis was on stage for this, and he is set to return as Kino Loy. fan favorite character from season 1.
Right. A lot of the talk from the panelists was that the prison scenes that Keno Loy, Andy Serkis was part of was some of the best parts of the show, which it was. That was so horrifying to be in a prison like that. And what made it so good was what we didn't find out to the very end of the whole show was what they were making. It's like, what are they making? We had our own speculations. Are they making Starfighter parts? Are they making Death Star parts? Is it something else? Are they just slaves tooling? And they were making Death Star parts. Wasn't it so cool?
It was.
And
it was super
the thing that I can't wait to see, which is the big, I think they're holding their cards close to the chest, is K2SO was not in the trailer. Which is, if this ends right where Rogue One begins, we get to see that story, hopefully.
Yes.
I can't wait to figure that out. I can't wait to, because if you haven't heard, my character in the RPG we're fixing to play is a KX droid based on K2SO. I'm not going to act like him, obviously. I don't have, what's his name, Andy Tudyk's comedic timing or anything like that. But
Alan Tudyk, but you're right.
Alan Tudyk, yeah. I'm not the best name person. You are. So Alan Tudyk, I don't have his comedic timing or whatever, but it's going to be fun getting to play that big giant droid and see how that is on the tabletop. So as one of my favorite characters from Rogue One, I can't wait to see how this plays out on the TV screen.
Right. And, I got to say, I'm happy. This was originally, when they were first planning this out, 5 seasons, it was going to basically be a year a season leading up to Rogue One. And that would have worked. I love Andor, and I think that the way they've done it, I would have trusted Tony Gilroy with it. But Tony Gilroy is admittedly not a Star Wars super fan. He's a fan, obviously. You wouldn't make a Star Wars if you didn't like it. But he's not, he doesn't know everything about it. He's not steeped in the universe. He's seen the movies a couple times, maybe. And it's got to be exhausting filming this. They're not using the volume. They're going to real on-set locations. And so and we saw in season 1, they're pouring their heart and soul into this show. And so I'm happy that it's only 2 seasons because I think just knowing that there's an end point, it's not the same as telling a story like The Mandalorian where there's no end in sight yet, and maybe, the directors are really just kind of, it's fluid. They're teasing out the story that they want as it goes along. Tony Gilroy knows what he wants, knows the story, and man, I'm really, really excited that it's only 2 seasons because I think that that's just going to tell this awesome, condensed, concise story that we got in season 1. I have no worries that season 2 is not going to exceed season 1. I think this, when all said and done, these 24 episodes are going to be some of the best Star Wars that exists.
Yeah, and to see some of the more brutalist side of the rebellion is really refreshing, because from the Empire's perspective, all these people are terrorists, and that's a reality of what we get to see, which we saw in Andor season 1. Carter, what are some speculations for this season 2?
Well, we have a lot of characters that we can throw in there. We could see Saw, we could see Hera, we could see the Path. We could see any active Rebel cells, and there was a lot of talk of different Rebel cells, and we're going to need to see the way they all coalesce together. That's going to be a big deal. We saw in leaked footage Andor and Mon Mothma running together. This is likely Mon Mothma fleeing after she declares that she is against the Empire and that she is now the leader of the Rebel Alliance. And this is the creation of the Alliance, is whenever Mon Mothma steps down as an Imperial senator. And so that directly ties into a Rebels story arc. I wouldn't be surprised if the handoff was Cassian to Mon Mothma. And Tony Gilroy has talked about how excited he is to do a literal walk into Rogue One, that Cassian's getting on the ship to go to Rogue One. I wouldn't be surprised if the end of that little arc, or the end of that episode arc, is Cassian hands off Mon Mothma, and whatever the Rebels scene is, which I haven't watched it, so I don't know the exact handoff, but Mon Mothma, however she enters, Cassian's, behind the door in the other room, and had just handed her off. I bet that there's something like that going to happen, because that would just be so neat, and so seamless, and such another cool way to tie Andor into what Filoni's doing, and just all of the rest of Star Wars.
Oh, you're exactly right. You said a lot of what I want to say, especially with Saul Guerrero, because we see him in Rogue One. I want to see how that, maybe some of those earlier interactions are done. Mm-hmm. But, what happens with Stellan Skarsgård's Luthen Rael?
Oh, I know.
There's going to be something there that is, because his ship in that one episode, what he does and what he's capable of is awesome. I can't even put to words how much I enjoyed those scenes, right? And
and the monologue that he delivers, I mean, it's just that is such big foreshadowing for something.
Yeah, and so if this is since this is the final season, something epic's going to happen with that character, and it's hard to speculate what that even is, but it's going to make hopefully a major blow to the Empire and something good for the Rebels, right?
Right.
But as far as a further speculation, we brought up a lot of Rebel characters. I think in this era we see teen Leia Organa. Hopefully she pops up in this somehow.
Oh, that would be so
Wouldn't
cool.
that be something?
That would be so cool.
So Bail Organa and all of them seeing something go on with that would be so fun.
Jimmy Smits would be really easy to get in there, but even teenage Leia, I really hope that they cast her like that. That's one thing that was glaring from the Ahsoka trailer is you've got Mon Mothma and 4 Alliance senators. I mean, the only reason that one of those Alliance senators isn't Princess Leia is because there's trepidation around recasting Princess Leia. Because they want to get it right, and they're not going to do it just for a cameo. And I get that. I'm not saying that they need to recast her. And Carrie Fisher's going to be hard to live up to. I saw someone fan cast Carrie Fisher's daughter. Her daughter's already been a character in Star Wars, but that doesn't mean anything. Multiple people have played multiple characters in Star Wars before. And so it would be cool. It would be cool to see Leia get cast, and it was a little disappointing to not see her among those New Republic senators in the Ahsoka trailer. But getting to see her in Andor would be a huge treat. And I'm even excited to hear them talk about what happens over the 1 year that they've been gone. Because they're saying 1 year of time has passed between Season 1 and Season 2 out of the gate. What's gone on during that 1 year? We know that there's been a lot going on Lothal. Tarkin's Star Destroyer got destroyed over Mustafar. The Grand Inquisitor died. There's a lot going on Lothal. So we have to assume that Luthen and Cassian have been up to a lot too.
Right. Maybe there's some sort of go-between and passing information back and forth. That'd be fun to see.
Yes. Yeah, it would be fun to see. And I really hope, and I think we're going to get a nod to the Phoenix Squadron. And look, we've got live-action Ahsoka and Sabine and all these people cast. There's no reason, and not a live-action Ahsoka. We do have her cast, obviously, but live-action Hera. That with all of these characters, there's no reason not to fold them into Andor, not to say, hey, we're filming in this location. Can you fly here for a week and take some small scene cuts? Obviously, they're going to say yes. And so I'd love to see that just continue to mesh all this together. Colin, that wraps up live-action TV show news. we spent a ton of time. Exactly. So much. We had so much to talk about. We're not even done on TV news. We have animated TV news. Animation's an awesome medium for Star Wars, and these stories that we're going to talk about are super cool. We've got 3 of them to talk about right here. The very first one is one that we all kind of knew was coming. We were left with a cliffhanger just a couple weeks ago. Bad Batch Season 3 is coming, and it is the final season.
Yeah, that's kind of sad. I want to see what happens. I want Omega's character to flourish, but at the same time, they're going to do, these are like the Clone Wars seasons 8, 9, and 10, right? In a sense. Because there's not going to be any clones anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
You say that it's sad. I'm happy about it. Season 2, it had its ups and downs. We cannot say that Season 2, every episode was a winner. It finished strong. I am not criticizing the way Season 2 finished. But Season 3 is presumably going to be another 16 episodes. And so that's a lot of content. That's 16 weeks of Star Wars, 4 solid months. And Season 3, every story has a beginning, middle, and end. The original trilogy and the prequel trilogy were told in 3 movies. Telling this in 3 seasons feels really appropriate. The end of Season 2 felt like The Empire Strikes Back. All hope's kind of lost. It's kind of like, oh my gosh. Our heroes just got the dog kicked out of them. Tech's dead. Omega's gone. She's going to get experimented on. Betrayed by Sid. It's Empire Strikes Back. A lot of beats the same. And so we're about to get, in our Season 3, our Return of the Jedi with the Bad Batch. And it's not all going to be sunshine and roses. It's, like you said, the clones are gone, and that something happens there. So, but I'm excited that it's a final season, because again, like Andor, when they're telling this small and condensed story, and they know the destination, it really hyper-focuses the crew. And so I think that we're going to get a hyper-focus on Bad Batch that's just going to, it's going to be chef's kiss. I think we're going to be really excited with what's delivered in this third and final season.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories to wrap up. I think what I'm mostly hoping for is Sid to get her comeuppance, right? She needs some sort of, I don't want her to die, obviously, kid show, yada, yada, but she needs to know that doing wrong by people is not a good thing, especially for our heroes, right? I mean,
Yep.
And then what's the deal with potentially Tech's replacement, the long-lost sister clone?
Exactly.
Right?
We have no idea what's going to happen with her.
And I mean, she holds such resentment against the Kaminoans that I'm just real anxious to see what went on there.
Right.
So
they screened a small little bit of a trailer. They put together some scenes. So they've already got this thing animated. So we don't have a release date yet, but I mean, I'm saying it's coming out early next year. I'll bet you, maybe the same time next year that it did this year. And so I think we're going to get it soon. And then in that trailer, they had Emperor Palpatine himself visit Mount Tantus. So we're going to get some new Palpatine scenes around cloning, around what's going on there. Maybe a little bit of Force experimentation. And we have Echo saying they need Omega for something. And the Batch is well aware of what's going on Mount Tantus. They know they've got to get Omega because it's basically the fate of the galaxy is at stake. And so it's an exciting setup.
The thing that I hope for most with the Bad Batch Season 3 is I kind of take Omega as the anti-Boba Fett. Mm-hmm. You know what? We don't know. I don't know if it was said, or maybe I missed her not remembering correctly. I don't know if she ages like the other clones.
She does not.
Right?
She does not.
Yeah,
she ages like Boba Fett does.
So she ages like Boba Fett, and I don't know. I don't guess they're this. Are they similar in age to one another? Do you know that off the top of your head?
I don't know. If I were to venture a guess, I think she is slightly younger because I think I don't know if this is fan speculation or if this has been confirmed, but the reason her name is Omega is because she was the last clone that they made. Boba Fett was the first. He was the Alpha clone, and she is the Omega, the last clone. I don't know if that's fan speculation on her name or if that's confirmed, but I think maybe after all of the batches of the clones were cranked out, they made Omega. That might, I don't know. I don't know if that's fan speculation or if that's been confirmed, but let's go with that. Let's say that she's just a couple years younger than Boba Fett.
So in my opinion, that speculation needs to be answered. I mean, because up until the book of Boba Fett was a bad dude. I mean, it's like Cad Bane said, I know you're a killer. Right? I mean, and I presume he still is, I guess, if you're a Pike or a part of the syndicates he doesn't like. But in other stuff, he was a gun for hire. Well, that's the opposite of what Omega is, right? And so, what my hope is that her story doesn't end here. I want a book of Omega as an opposite of the book of Boba Fett somehow. Yeah. And so, maybe she's not as a fan favorite like Boba Fett was from back in the day, but and they shouldn't make shows just because a few fans here and there want them for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. But hopefully something comes about that is good enough to do right by her story. And just my interest is piqued. Like I said, she's the anti-Boba Fett in a sense. And is that true? Am I just being a doofus?
No,
I hope that question's answered. The next celebration we go to, we're going to ask Filoni that ourselves.
Yes, we are. I want to build on what you just said because I think it was smart. I think that you're headed down a good rabbit trail there. So you've got Boba Fett, like you said, the gun for hire, the mercenary, and then you've got Omega, the soldier. I mean, she is learning how to be a proper soldier. She might not work for an actual military, but her brothers who did and who know how to behave like soldiers are teaching her how to be a soldier. And that's kind of the difference between a mercenary and a soldier right there is the soldier fights for a cause. Omega has a cause, clone rights, and the mercenary fights for himself, fights for money, fights for greed. And so we know from the trailer and from who hosted the panel for the Bad Batch Season 3, Ming-Na Wen is going to reprise her role as Fennec Shand in the Bad Batch again. She was in Season 1 of the Bad Batch, and she reprised her role as Fennec Shand, both in The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. And so she is the really, I mean, the obvious link between Boba Fett and Omega is Jango Fett and the clones and all of that. But Ming-Na Wen is in real world, real time, she is the link between those two characters. Because Ming-Na Wen is in both shows. Fennec Shand is in both shows. And so, the Book of Boba Fett, a lot of people are clamoring for a Book of Boba Fett Season 2 about him fighting Mace Windu. And I like Mace Windu as a character. I mean, we're about to talk about how much I like Mace Windu as a character. I don't want to see that. One, I hope Mace Windu never survives that fall. Because that lessens the Revenge of the Sith so much. Two, Boba Fett's a good guy now. I mean, he has to have made peace with that, or he's just going to revert back to being a bad guy. And three, that would just be like resurrecting Mace Windu for some glorified boss battle. Like, it'd be like a video game. Like, it's like a fighting video game. Oh, I'm going to choose Boba Fett. I'm going to choose Mace Windu. And then Boba Fett has to kill him because it's Boba Fett's show. Like, it's just, none of that really lines up. And so that's not what I want out of a Season 2 of the Book of Boba Fett. What I want out of Season 2 of the Book of Boba Fett is adult Omega coming in there, meeting Boba Fett, and doing something. I don't know what that would be. I don't even want to know what that would be because they can take it in so many directions. We don't even know what the setup could be until the end of this Bad Batch or until maybe we see Boba Fett in the next 2 episodes of The Mandalorian or in Mandalorian Season 4. But getting to see Omega tie into all of that, I would love to see that. I think it would be super exciting. I think that you're really spot on they're kind of the anti each other. And whether they're adversaries or whether they work together, that can just be realized later down the line. But I think if we get a Book of Boba Fett Season 2, which I'm not even campaigning for, but if we get one, Omega is low-hanging fruit that would be a way more interesting story than Mace Windu comes back.
Yeah, for sure. You're exactly right.
So, Colin, that wraps up our Bad Batch Season 3 discussion. But while we're hot on the tails of talking about Mace Windu, let's talk about, something that really excited me, because they did it in the same way they did it last Celebration, is Tales of the Jedi Season 2 is coming, and that's it. That's all we know. That's all we knew about the first one, was these were notes that he had written on a piece of notepad, and they had released who the stories were going to be about at Celebration. But this is Dave Filoni's little brainchild. They're shorts. I love Tales of the Jedi Season 1. It was some of the best Star Wars of 2022. And a Tales of the Jedi Season 2 is going to be so cool. So, Colin, my real question is, who do you want the Tales to be about? You get 2 choices. We're gonna pretend it's in the same format as Season 1, where it's just 2 stories about 2 people told over 3 episodes. Who are the 2 people that you want?
We talked about this a lot on the Discord, I think.
We did. No, we absolutely did talk about it on Discord.
I'm trying to think what I did there. I don't want to butcher the names, right?
I remember who you said. I know who you said. And it was good. It was a good suggestion.
Yeah, Caleb Doom and his Jedi Master. What's her name?
Depa Billaba.
Depa Billaba, right? My memory's so bad sometimes. I'm sorry. But yeah, I think that's kind of the obvious ones. And I say obvious, but that's my feeling in the sense of like Ahsoka's fixing to come out. Caleb Doom / Kanan Jarrus was a major factor in the first 4 seasons, and something that would kind of like help out. If that when Ezra Bridger comes back, they teased him in the Ahsoka trailers, right? Caleb Doom / Kanan Jarrus is such a major part of Ezra's story that I think it'd be good to see a little bit more of that. For another speculation, and this one's just going to be silly because I can't think of anything, is Pong Krell. I really want to see what happens with that Jedi and why he made the choices he made.
Right.
But I was sitting there watching the Clone Wars episodes, and his episode came up, and I was like, oh my gosh, that dude was cool. For anybody who doesn't know, would you know his race off the top of your head?
Oh, it's the same as Dex from Dex's Diner in Attack of the Clones. It's not Basilisk, it's Besilic. That's what it is. Sorry, it's Besilic.
Yeah. But he's the only one I think we've seen. Maybe we've seen one somewhere else and I missed it. He has 4 arms, and he wields, I want to say this right so we're clear, 2 lightsabers, each of them double-sided.
I know, it's so cool.
And his Wikipedia entry is like, he's extremely effective. He seems like some sort of like Mongolian general or some sort of Alexander the Great type that just, you know, he thinks of the clones. He has a real imperial mindset and thinks of the clones just as tools or something, right?
Right.
And wastes them. So, you know, I seriously doubt this is literally going to happen, right?
Right.
But,
no, you're right. Yeah. But it is a cool one. It's a cool idea.
But it's you know, he's a fallen Jedi when he gets right down to it, and this isn't something. I mean, literally, I guess he did casually fall just for brevity in these episodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the broader canon, it's not something that just happens. And the episode is really about the clones coming over an oppressive force, because I don't know how you'd stand against this guy. He's so effective and so powerful.
Right.
And,
No, yeah. There would be cool tales, especially showing how he kind of gets to his darker mindset on his opinion of the clones and on him just falling to the dark side. I think we could really see that progression.
And maybe if that exists only in my own head, I'll be happy with that. But yes, what are your speculations for your Tales of the Jedi?
So, if Tales of the Jedi stays the prequel era, I won't be disappointed, but I will think that there was a lost opportunity, because there's a lot of Jedi out there and a lot of stories to tell. And I guess Ahsoka's got a tiny bit outside of the prequel era, but not that much. And so the pair that I would like to see a tale about, or three tales about, are Luke and Ben. And see Luke building his Jedi Order and see Ben kind of falling to the dark side. I feel like I say this all the time and any opportunity I have, but I'm going to say it again. That animation is the best way to deliver Luke's story during that time period, and doing three tales about that would really gauge interest in a new animated series about that time period and about Luke's Jedi Academy. With Bad Batch Season 3 wrapping up, Lucasfilm Animation is going to start a new project. I mean, that division of the company exists. They're not just going to stop existing. They're a big division of the company. And so they're going to start a new project soon, and probably really soon, because we already have footage for Bad Batch Season 3. So assumedly, that's coming pretty quickly. And so we're going to get some new animated show. And so I would like for them to try to pilot that animated show out of Tales of the Jedi. But I want to be clear. Please do a different art style. I love the Clone Wars art style. Everybody does. We have, after Tales comes out, and after Bad Batch Season 3 comes out, we are going to have 12 seasons of that art style of TV. That's plenty for that art style. We also have a movie that's in that art style. So let's get a new art style out there, but told a story of Luke and Ben Solo. But if it sticks with the prequel era, Mace Windu. I mean, I think that he deserves three tales. I think it'd be super interesting. He was Depa Billabba's master, so he's in he's Ezra's great grandmaster. He's in that chain, in that Padawan master chain. And so seeing Mace Windu stories would be super cool, especially kind of seeing how he got to be the hardened kind of guy that he is. So I think that would fit in really well. I would really like to see Mace Windu stories.
Yeah, those are both great ideas. I hope you're right. We get to see that stuff.
I appreciate it. And, I mean, there's a lot of guys that we can do. We know Dave loves Plo Koon. We could always see some Plo Koon tales. We know that, Jaro Tapal and Cal Kestis, they were together during the Clone War. Cal Kestis was a Padawan with him. We could totally see some tales about them. Get Cameron Monaghan back to do some voice acting. There's a lot of trails that we can go down. Some Yoda tales, some Qui-Gon tales, Obi-Wan tales, Anakin tales, any random Jedi tales, and we're going to be happy with them. I mean, I'm going to be super happy with any of the tales that we get. So it's exciting that we're getting another season of that. I hope they don't stop that one. I mean, that would be cool with me if Tales of the Jedi ran to season 12 itself. Because it's so small and so isolated, and you put them all together, and it's just shy of being a movie in length. And so just getting that content drop once a year and just seeing, oh, here's 2 new stories. Because think about the depth that those Dooku tales added to that character and what they did for Darth Tyrannus and what they did for Count Dooku. I mean, the best stories Star Wars can tell are when your perspective changes about another thing.
Yeah. and just how they complete all these different stories, filling in the gaps like Ahsoka did. Can't wait for this one to show up.
Yep, I agree. So the last little bit of news that we have for television is the one that's coming out the soonest. This is going to premiere on May 4th. We got a trailer for Visions Season 2, and it looked really, really good. If you like Visions Season 1, this is more of the same. New studios, new art styles, and it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, 9 different studios, and this one's over the top. There's claymation.
I know.
There's
the Wallace and Gromit studio. I'm forgetting their name off the top of my head, but they're the ones that did that story, and it looks funny. I'm excited. And Dennis Lawson, the guy who played Wedge Antilles in the original trilogy, is reprising his role for that episode, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, and it comes out May 4th. That's right around the corner.
Less than a month. I mean, we're getting it soon.
Yeah.
We're getting it really soon.
I can't wait to do the podcast. We might have to break that one out. I think there's going to be too much to talk about when it comes to these.
Yeah, I think you're
little
right.
Episodes, because just from this trailer I'm speechless. How cool it is! One of the characters at the very start has a double-ended lightsaber that has a katana style with an a yellow side or orange side. No, it's yellow, and then later shows it with a red side. It's something else.
Right. So in the original Visions, I say the original, but the Visions Season 1, there was serious stories and funny stories. I tended to like the serious stories better, but the funny stories in this trailer really got me. They kind of enchanted me, and I think I might be more excited for the funny ones. Did you notice in the background of one of these shorts that just one of the visual jokes they have in the background that's so funny is they have 3 porta potties beside each other, and on the outside of the porta potties, the symbols are Jawa, human, and Wookiee, and they're all different heights.
That's hilarious.
I know. Just little visual gags like that. I'm really excited for these because I think the funny ones are really going to get me this time. My favorite from Vision Season 1 was the Elder. I think I say that all the time on the podcast, is that one did it for me because that one was just so cool. I love just Jedi out doing their thing, exploring. The art style was really good for that one. But I do think I'm going to probably lean towards the funnier ones this time. And I'm excited about that.
Yeah. This one seems like I wouldn't say mistakes from the past of the other one, but these somehow seem elevated over the past Visions. Right? I mean, is that true to say? Would you...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Cool.
They know what they want. They know that we've got Season 1, so the studios know what's being asked of them. We're getting studios from all over the world doing this one, and so it's really exciting. I think that Season 2 really does have the potential to knock Season 1 out of the ballpark. Not that Season 1 wasn't awesome, but it was really cool, and I can't wait. I cannot wait for Season 2, and we don't have to wait long, like you said.
Yeah, we get to talk about it really soon. I'm so pumped.
Yeah. So, Colin, that wraps up TV show news. And now we have some news to talk about that is not news. This is a glaring hole from Celebration. I was really, really surprised that this was...
We pointed this out before, looking at the panels.
We did, and it came to fruition. I thought they were going to sneak something in there. They were going to sneak something in the High Republic panel, but they didn't. We got no news about this very important medium for Star Wars, the 3rd largest medium for Star Wars, video games. I mean, it was crickets. I talked to one of my coworkers today who's a huge Star Wars fan, and we talked about the video game news, and he was like, we got some new gameplay for Survivor, and we did, but we already got gameplay for Survivor. I mean, it's new gameplay, but we're going to get that game in 17 days. That's not news. There are so many Star Wars games in development. There's like 1 billion Star Wars games in development right now. I think there's 6 or 8 Star Wars games in development. There's one Star Wars game called Star Wars Hunters that's been ready to go for years, since 2021, and they've been slowly releasing it in international countries. They just released it in Italy and a couple other countries a few weeks ago. I tried to change the location on my phone to see if I could download it, and it wouldn't let me. But why didn't we get something about that? Why didn't people at Celebration get to download that? Or, it was just, And it was weird that we didn't get any video game news with all of these video games in development right now.
And especially from years past, going from Battlefield 2,
Battlefront.
how successful those Battlefront, yeah, how successful those games were to just nothing. It's kind of mind-boggling, honestly. It's really weird.
It is. And, Star Wars games, they kind of fumbled out of the gate with Battlefront 1 and 2. They each of those had their own different issues. But since then, they've said they want to release a Star Wars game every 6 months. We're on pace with that cadence from Squadrons to Survivor, but that would mean that a new Star Wars game is going to have to come out 6 months from this month, and we didn't hear anything about it. That's not going to happen. And so we're again just seeing the failures around Star Wars video games. And that's a bummer, because Star Wars video games have long told some of the best stories that exist. I mean, The Force Unleashed was so popular. Knights of the Old Republic is one of the best video games of all time. Like, it's just weird that we didn't get anything. I mean, there's a High Republic panel, and the game Star Wars Eclipse that we got a trailer for over a year ago, and has since said it's going to take 8 years to make. They didn't say a word about it, and it takes place during the High Republic. Like, you couldn't have given us some... What I'm confused about is we didn't even get, like, one art asset from any of these games in development. It makes you feel like the games that were announced were kind of the same as the movies, and they were more like ideas, and they got announced prematurely. And now we might begin to see a big slate of canceled video games. And E3's not happening this year. They canceled E3, so we're not going to get announcements there. Like, there's nothing even like holding Star Wars video games accountable right now.
Yeah, it's really strange. The only panel they had was for Atomic Mass Games, and I didn't watch it. They didn't live stream it. It's hard to find any news about what actually occurred there.
Right.
And I'm just sure they're talking about their new game, right?
Right, and that's not a video game. I mean, we love tabletop games, but when you look at the percentage of people that play Star Wars tabletop games to Star Wars video games, I mean, it's laughable. It's, if you compare the two, it's virtually nobody plays Star Wars tabletop games if you're comparing the two. And so to see, and tabletop games don't have any bearing on story, whereas video games are in canon. And look, I'm super excited for Survivor. We talk about it every podcast. We've talked about it every podcast for like a dozen in a row. And that's a good thing because we're so excited to play it. But I really want to know what's coming in the future. I mean, there's a Star Wars RTS game that is supposedly in development. That's my favorite genre of video games. Star Wars not Edge of the Empire, I'm sorry. Star Wars Empire at War was my favorite video game when I was growing up. I played hours of that video game. You and I have played it together. We enjoyed playing it together. It's like, just show us something. Somebody, please.
Yeah, it's really strange. I mean, because there's millions of people who do this stuff. What is this one that's fixing to come out?
Survivor.
Gosh. Survivor... See, Fallen Order's the other one. I get it confused too easy. When Survivor comes out, millions of people are going to play this game. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're going to make tens of millions of dollars off of it. So it's really strange, especially with it coming out, like you said, 17 days away.
Right. And no matter how much people like Star Wars books, I love them. I have a bookshelf full. No matter how much people love Star Wars comics, you're addicted to Star Wars comics. You love Star Wars comics. Those stories are not going to reach the same size audience that video games do. Video games take a backseat to TV and film only. And it's not that far of a backseat. And before television, video games were second behind the films. That was how people got their Star Wars media, was through video games. They got it in The Force Unleashed. They got it in KOTOR. Those were canon when they came out. It's like they are the medium to tell Star Wars stories, and they're a good one to tell Star Wars stories because everybody wants to immerse themselves in the Star Wars universe. And it's just weird. I don't know. I mean, we don't want to dwell too long on that because Celebration was, a huge mix of excitement, and we got a lot of really cool stuff. But it is weird that we didn't get any video games.
Yeah, very strange.
So next, we'll get back on a happier note, back on the awesome announcements, is books. I am always eagle-eyed for books coming out because I try to read every Star Wars novel that they put out. I'm a voracious Star Wars reader, and so the book panel was one that I was really looking after. There was a High Republic panel and a Star Wars publishing panel. The Star Wars Publishing Panel actually didn't announce any new adult novels. So I was a little bummed out by that, because last year at Celebration we got the announcement of Princess and the Scoundrel and Shadow of the Sith. Shadow of the Sith being one of our favorite Star Wars books. And Princess and the Scoundrel, we have a special about that one where me and my wife reviewed that one for Valentine's Day. That was a lot of fun to do. So we didn't get any novels announced at the publishing panel. The only, there were kids' books announced and other things announced that we aren't going to read or cover, really. It's exciting that they're always introducing new Star Wars stories for those ages, but they're not for us. The only thing of note from the publishing panel that I thought was really funny was, I've got the book Secrets of the Jedi. You've got Secrets of the Sith. These are thin reference books that are really similar to the old, thicker Star Wars reference books that came out. The Path of the Jedi, The Way of the Sith. They were kind of thick reference books that were really cool. They were like in-universe. These are in-universe, but they're way thinner. They're small reference books. And like I said, Secrets of the Jedi has come out. Secrets of the Sith has come out. There's a Secrets of the Bounty Hunters. Well, the fourth iteration in this series is crazy to me. It is the Secrets of the Wookiees.
Oh my goodness!
It's got Gunji and Buryaga and Chewbacca on the cover, and it's like, they're going to tell something about their technology, and we're going to get some Kashyyyk lore in this book, and it's like, it's just funny. That Jedi Path book and the Way of the Sith book that were in Legends, they were really successful. And this third one they came out with was the Bounty Hunter's Code. And then they came out with a Rebel Files, an Imperial Handbook, and a Smuggler's Handbook. Those were all really successful. I've got all of those books, and I like them. They're cool. Two of them are canon. The Rebels one and the Smuggler's one are canon. I don't know why they didn't go down those trails first for the Secrets of. Like, the Secrets of the Smugglers sounds a little more appealing to me than the Secrets of the Wookiees.
Or that, the Code of the Mandalorians. Surely they would do that.
Yeah. Actually, that's the lowest hanging fruit. Why didn't they do the Secrets of the Mandalorians?
I guess they had somebody who wanted to write that book. I guess it's good for them.
Yeah. Someone came to them and was like, I gotta write the Wookiee book. I've got this idea. I mean, these books are like 25 pages. So someone was just like, I got a free weekend. I really want to tell a story about the Wookiees. Let me write this book. And then they were like, all right, listen, we're not going to let you write your three novel trilogy about the Wookiee homeworld. Why don't you condense that into 25 pages and we're going to roll it out as Secrets of the Wookiees.
I need to write Secrets of the Ewoks next.
Yeah.
I demand nothing less.
Secrets of the Gungans.
yeah, you said it.
Oh, man. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm sure it's going to be good. I don't want us to crap on this book. These books are not for us. These books are, they're for kids also. They're like reference books that are, like I said, they're 25 pages. I mean, they're cool. They add a little bit to the lore. But, man, Secrets of the Wookiees was a surprise to be sure. But a welcome one.
A welcome one. Yeah.
So the novels that we got announced. We get the end of the High Republic. The High Republic's going to come to a close in early 2025. This publishing initiative has been massive. It's been novels, young adult novels, junior readers, kids' books, reference books, short stories in Star Wars Insider, short stories books itself, audio dramas. It's going to tie into the Acolyte. I mean, it's been everything. The High Republic has been a success. Like, they did the huge, ambitious New Jedi Order publishing initiative in the early 2000s and the 90s. This is far and away way more successful than that. No matter what you think of the stories told, it's clear that the High Republic has just been so successful. People love it. It's a niche. There's a niche audience of people who collect all of it. I'm somewhere in between. I don't have everything. I haven't read the Young Junior books, but I have read the young adult ones, and I've read the adult novels. I've got the short story books, and it's published in comic books too. They're bringing out an omnibus. I'm collecting it in trade paperbacks. It's been fun, man. It's a cool story. I tell you all the time, you got to hop on this train. It's not too late. It's never too late. But they announced a bunch, but we're going to focus on the novels. The 3 new novels that are going to tell the story of the third phase of the High Republic, which is, they're titled The Eye of Darkness, The Temptation of the Force, and The Trials of the Jedi. And if you're not familiar with the High Republic era, These adversaries called Nihil are who the Jedi are fighting. This is a time when the Republic is really expanding, but the Outer Rim is still wild. Hyperspace travel is just a little dangerous. They've got to do it through lanes. They need beacons and buoys to communicate. And they have a space station out there in the middle of the Outer Rim that's a Jedi temple plus, humanitarian aid plus Republic place. Like, it's just this giant catch-all for the Republic government out there. And that's in the first phase of the books. The first phase takes place about all of that story. I'm not going to spoil the ending. The second phase goes back 150 years and tells the story before that. The second phase has been a huge treat. I've really loved it. The adversary in the second phase has been this cult that believes that the Force should not be used by anybody, that the Jedi are abusing the Force by using it, and that Force users should be put to death. All of them. They are not Force users. They're regular people who think this. They're a cult. And so now they're going back to the original timeline, back to the Phase 1 timeline for Phase 3, and this will tell the culmination of the story, and they're going to tie the two phases together. And I couldn't be more excited about it, especially the end title.
That sounds awesome.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry. I feel like I've gone on too long of a soliloquy here. It is awesome. And the title, Trials of the Jedi, it's selling it to me. I'm really excited about it. But Colin, let me hear your perspective on it. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. I haven't read any of the book. I picked one of them up, but I haven't even cracked it. I've been too busy. But, this is such a ripe area for stuff that way looking forward to it.
Right. And
it's going to be fun.
The selling point for the High Republic is it's unmired by things like people love the Old Republic because of the KOTOR games, because of the Darth Bane books, because of all of these stories that took place in Legends during the Old Republic. They don't want to dash that away. They want to, they want to take care of that. Lucasfilm wants to steward that. They want to make sure they do those stories right. And so the High Republic was a time period that they were able to openly tell these new stories not about Jedi versus Sith. I mean, this is the Jedi in their golden age. The Sith are gone, dead. They have no even inkling of them. I don't even think the word Sith may have been used in any of the adult novels. I might be mistaken, but if it was used, it was like a curse word, and that was it. Like, they don't think that they exist at all anymore. There's no inkling. And so It's cool to see the Jedi go up against non-Force using foes that are also giving them a run for their money. So it's been fun.
Yeah, and it's like a sandbox is a good way to put it, it sounds like, for them to create these novels.
Yes, exactly. You were totally right. It is like a sandbox. And Charles Soule, Cavan Scott, all of the authors. Each book's written by a different author. And so it's been guided by a ton of folks. The comic books have all been phenomenal. Some of the best Star Wars comics. It's been good. I would urge anybody who likes Star Wars reading to jump right in. Jump in with The Light of the Jedi. That's the first adult novel of Phase 1. That's the jumping off point. And if you like it, you're going to really like the whole series. And like I said, some of my favorite Jedi ever written, ever on screen are from this era. They're super cool. But Colin, I think that wraps up our book section of the news. Like I said, it was kind of sparse. The High Republic was the giant chunk of the publishing news. We know that we're getting a new Inquisitor book coming in June. That's the next novel that's going to come out. Rise of the Red Blade. That's been announced for a while now. And so that's going to be about the Inquisitors as soon as the Inquisitorius starts. So it'll be in 18 BBY. But that'll be exciting. But that wasn't covered in Celebration. And so the next chunk is the comics chunk. And there was some comics news. There was a Dark Horse panel as well as a Marvel panel. Dark Horse is going to be continuing to write Star Wars stories, all different kinds of Star Wars stories. Marvel, their 4 ongoing series are going to continue in the Star Wars series, Darth Vader, Bounty Hunters, and Dr. Aphra. There's going to be a continuation of the High Republic comics through Phase 2, and then Phase 3 is also going to have an ongoing series, just like we've seen for the other 2 phases. No surprises there. The big piece of news is we have our big brand new crossover event. Crimson Empire just ended, and we are about to roll into Dark Droids.
Oh my goodness.
I'm really interested in your opinion on this, because I've got an opinion on this, and I'd love to hear yours. But Dark Droids has been described by Charles Soule as, what if your phone hates you He said that on stage. That was his description. In that it's, what if your phone hates you and communicates with all other phones about how to kill you? And so droids are rebelling, or they're angry, or there's droids that are out there that are, it's like a droids' rights thing, maybe. We don't know. We don't know the reason that they're evil. We don't know what's going on, but it's going to carry through all 4 of the ongoing series. They're going to be a giant crossover, and like I said, it's called Dark Droids. Thoughts?
So, in 1986, one of my favorite movies of all time came out, starring Emilio Estevez playing Bill Robinson, called Maximum Overdrive. The premise of that movie is a story written by Stephen King. Is exactly what you just said, except rated R in this case, and that all machines, cell phones weren't a thing in 1986, but in this case, all machines come to life and massacre the human population in preparation for an alien invasion. So whereas it doesn't sound like it's going to be on that level of goriness or horror, it's going to be, they're going to be kindred spirits, right? And so I wonder how much of that stuff is going to overlap. Obviously not going to be homicidal, or maybe they are, because it's a comic book and they can get away with some of these things. But this is a science fiction thing that I really love. Like I said, this movie, it's got a 2.5 star rating on IMDb. It's not a good movie, and it's certainly aged over the years. But it's a really fun idea to explore, and especially in the context of Star Wars, where these droids that help us make everything every day are going to be interfering with your everyday life. What if you get calf that's poisonous, or your ship just decides they're going to beat the Millennium Falcon and do it in 10 parsecs, but really takes you to the mall, right?
Right.
It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. No, I figured you would be. I thought it was a little odd, the what if your phone hates you thing. I don't know. Comics are supposed to be weird, especially Star Wars comics. I mean, Star Wars comics are supposed to be weird. That's where we get the weirdest stories. And so it may or may not be for me. I'm definitely going to give it a try, but we're going to see. But I knew that you would be in on it, so I was excited to hear your take on it. That wraps up our comic news. Just a little bit of short news. I'm just going to pay lip service real quick to Lego news. Lots of new Lego sets announced. This may be the best Lego set run since like 2005, and I'm not joking, folks. It's really cool. We covered these Lego sets in our last episode in Mandalorian Chapter 22. And so that these Lego sets, the news broke before Celebration came out. And so there was nothing new that Lego debuted at Celebration. And so since this is our Celebration news segment, we're not going to spend any time on that. Just know they're extremely cool. You want to hear us dive into them deeper? Go check out our Chapter 22 of the Mandalorian episode. But there is...
I think there was a Lego TIE Interceptor that's coming out.
There is, yeah. There's a TIE Interceptor versus a Mandalorian. Yes, exactly.
I don't think we talked about that one. That one looks cool.
It does look cool.
I'm picking that one up for sure.
Yeah, that one's going to be cool. There's a little bit of other toy news out there. I'm not an action figure collector, neither are you, Colin, but so many Star Wars fans are. Toys have always been a huge part of Star Wars. Action figures have always been a huge part of Star Wars. And so we would be remiss if we weren't going to talk about these. The one that really stuck out to me, the one that I might pick up, is we're getting Force Ghost Anakin in the Black Series. And it's going to be a 3-pack that celebrates Return of the Jedi. Force Ghost, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Yoda all together. And it looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. I want to pick that one up too.
Yeah.
Force Ghost.
Yeah. You can reenact
fun.
your favorite scenes from Shadow of the Sith with Force Ghost Anakin and Luke Skywalker.
Yep.
Then we're getting Cad Bane in the Black Series. I saw a lot of people making big news about that. Did not know if he was not in the Black Series or if this is like a new sculpt or something. A lot of folks were really excited, so I felt like we needed to mention that one. Another cool one was Din's N1 is going to the Vintage Collection. So that's the different scale for Star Wars action figures. It's a smaller scale. It's modeled after the original Kenner Star Wars action figures. And so that's super cool. I think that one's really neat, that we're getting an N1 action figure scale.
Yeah, that would be... all these little stuff. I wish I had the money to collect them all and fill up a whole warehouse full of everything.
Right. Exactly. Well,
it's too fun.
You concentrate on Legos and the lightsabers, and I concentrate on the books and the Legos. And it's, if you try to get everything Star Wars, you're going to have a house made of action figures.
Right.
But it is. I mean, it's super cool that there's so much Star Wars that everybody finds their niche. The last little bit of toy news that stuck out to me that I thought we should mention is I have a Black Series helmet. It is Wedge Antilles' helmet. It's super high quality. I love it. It is really, really cool. There's a new helmet that got announced, and it's a 332nd Trooper helmet, and that is the Trooper designation that painted their helmets like Ahsoka for the Siege of Mandalore. And that's going to be sweet.
That's awesome.
Isn't that cool? I thought that one was awesome. I was like, that might be a pickup for me. That one might be one that I'm going to have to get because that's just going to look so cool on the bookshelf. I mean, it's just going to, it's going to look great.
Yeah, it is. There's no doubt. I'm looking at it right now, pulling it up. It's really cool.
Yeah, it is. And it's, all of these helmets, they play audio in the back of them. So it's going to have some audio like the Siege of Mandalore. My Wedge helmet has the Battle of Yavin audio and the Battle of Hoth audio. So it's going to be sweet. It's going to be super cool. Other than that, Colin, we have one other piece of Star Wars news, and it's not movies or action figures or comic books. It's meta news. This is news that you only care about if you're a Star Wars fan, but we care a lot about it, and that's we have the location of the next Star Wars celebration taking place in 2025. Star Wars Celebration is going to be in Japan.
Boy, that's something else. I'm glad it's in 2025. But man, Japan, do you want to go? That's quite the deal.
Look, I've always wanted to go to Celebration, and I want to make it happen. We're going to try our best to make it happen. I'm pretty sure on some other podcasts, we made some promises that we might not be able to keep about we're going to be there. But I really, really think that we're going to try to be there. Celebration is so cool. It's so important. Neither of us have ever experienced it. We love doing this news episode. We did one last year. I was looking so forward to this one for months. It's a lot of fun to get to talk about Star Wars news. And the atmosphere and the vibe at Celebration is electric. It can't be matched from what I've heard, and so I'd really like to participate. So we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we get to Celebration in 2025. But I'm not going without Colin because you have been to Japan before, and so I'll need your guidance.
I lived in Japan, Okinawa specifically, for a couple of years while doing my duty in the Marines, and it's an amazing place. Maybe not so if you're a young man, but as an adult with means and ability.
Right, you got disposable income now.
Right. I'm sure it's a lot better. The culture is so vastly different than what we experience day to day, especially where we live. We're rural people comparatively. So Japan is the opposite of that. And then just to see the perspective of the Japanese fans and all the other people that are going to have the opportunity to travel there from all the other Asian countries that don't get to. You're going to interact with those folks. It's going to be on another level. Plus, it's most likely going to be in Tokyo, if I had to guess. And that place is again, on another level compared to what we're used to. And so having the opportunity to bring that to our fans, England is one thing because it's just across the pond, as they say. This is not. It's a 20-hour flight from here to there. Mm-hmm. And it's not something you just casually do. It's not cheap. And the stay isn't going to be cheap. The culture is going to, they all speak the same language as that we do in London. It's going to be a hurdle for us, right?
Right.
And so it would be a tremendous, if we're able to pull that off, it's a tremendous opportunity that a lot of the people you see on Instagram and a lot of the other folks aren't going to have. The other podcasters are not going to be able to advance as far as what we're going to be able to.
Right.
And that's 2 years from now.
It is.
Our brand is growing strong. It's improving every day. We're getting better at what we do. And by then, we're probably just going to even barely be able to hit our stride, let alone be in our prime. So, my goodness, the opportunities are going to be amazing.
I will say that it is great. I think it's a good thing it's going to Japan. Obviously, I'm bummed it's not stateside. I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say when I saw the Japan announcement, my very first reaction was not, dang. But Star Wars is a worldwide phenomenon. There are so many fans outside of North America and outside of Europe, and they deserve to experience Star Wars too. And it being in Japan opens it up to a whole new market, whole new group of fans that haven't gotten it in their hemisphere ever. And so it being in Japan is really exciting. The relationships that Lucasfilm has built with all of these Japanese studios through making Visions, it cannot be understated. There is a lot that is going to happen in Japan. It's going to be an exciting celebration. It will be the year of a new film coming out, and that's going to be super exciting. And we're, it is worth celebrating Star Wars all over the globe. And so I am happy for the Asian Star Wars fans and the Star Wars fans in Australia who are going to get to experience this and who are going to get to experience it without jet lag. And so good for them, certainly. And like you said, Colin, we're going to be trying to make it. We want to make it. We're going to work hard to make it. It's 2 years from now. That's enough time to plan. And so this is not a commitment that we're going to be there. This is a commitment that we're going to try. And we really hope that you guys will help us try. Because the way we're trying is by continuing to put out more content and continuing to try and grow our Patreon subscribers. We have the best community of Star Wars fans in the galaxy at Star Wars Station. On our Facebook group, on our Discord, but the best community is over on our Patreon. Our patrons are awesome. We appreciate your support so much. What you do is you help keep us going. You help keep the lights on in our studio, as we say. And so every patron that helps is helping us get to Celebration. If you really enjoyed this episode, if you listened all the way through, then please help us get to Celebration, because our news coverage live can be even better than this. And so we have all kinds of tiers and rewards on our Patreon. There's ways that you can get part of our book club. There's ways you can get stickers and t-shirts, and you can be part of our exclusive Discord. There are ways that you can get mentioned on our Instagram and tagged. And it is a huge Instagram, and it's growing all the time. We have a post that has 900,000 views. And so being a part of that could help blow your Instagram up. And so we just are super excited to be able to engage with this Star Wars community. We have our brand new RPG premiering next month. It's going to be recorded this month, premiering in May. It's going to be on there. It's at the $2 tier. So all it takes is $2. You get a sticker, exclusive Discord access to our RPG, and a couple other perks, all for $2 a month. And so if you want to help send us to Celebration to make sure that your favorite Star Wars podcast covers Celebration, then check out the Patreon and find a tier that you really like the rewards on, and definitely consider giving us a subscription, because I know that we're not going to let you down.
Carter, I can't put it any better. It's this is something that I think it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time and money, and we're working really hard to deliver.
Yes,
I think we're delivering a good product. It's so fun, man.
We have an awesome.
And there's so much more coming out that please join us. We're having a good time.
Absolutely. We have an awesome time putting all this together. And look, if you can't engage with us on Patreon, you can still help us out, because a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify helps us out so much. It increases our viewership. It gets the algorithm promoting us. When you search Star Wars in the search bar, we want to be what comes up. And so if you can help us with a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify, we would love it. Wherever you're listening to us, drop a like, drop a 5-star. Like our Instagram, engage with us on Twitter, join the Discord. If you weren't in the Discord this week, you were missing out, because we had a lot of awesome discussion and commentary around all this news. It was active, it was jumping, people were throwing out ideas and speculation. It was super cool. Same goes for our Facebook group, Star Wars Station Cantina. You can engage with like-minded Star Wars fans in both of these places. These communities are for all Star Wars fans. You don't like this thing, that's cool. You're welcome there. Your opinions are welcome. The only thing is, don't fight about it, but express your opinions and tell us why you like this thing or dislike this thing, and let's focus on what you like, because we all like Star Wars, and we all want to see it succeed, and that's what's happening in these communities, is it's people rooting for Star Wars to succeed.
Yeah, so much fun. Is there anything else we need to cover today?
You know,
we got it all.
I think that's it. You know, we're going to have an episode ready for The Mandalorian in 2 short days. We'll be ready to talk about the new Mando episode. We are super excited about it. We're really anticipating it's going to be a good one. And so be sure to listen to us in just 2 days. We appreciate you listening so far to this. You've gotten this far, and we know that you're a big fan of the Star Wars Station, so without you, this wouldn't be possible. We appreciate every single one of you listeners, and the least you could do is tell a friend. We hope that you can tell a friend about us, and we hope that we are delivering all of the Star Wars news and commentary that you could hope for and more.
Yeah, hey, thanks for joining us today. I hope you got some insightful tidbits out of this. We had a lot of fun making it. We had a lot of fun gathering up all these news for you. You know, and again, can't iterate enough. Share your thoughts on the Discord or Facebook. That's the best way to get in touch with us.
It absolutely is. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you on Wednesday for Chapter 23 of The Mandalorian. And in the meantime, keep it wizard.